Hi, my name is Ed Boon, creator of Mortal Kombat, and you're listening to This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman Dodd and the rest of the TWIG crew on This Week in Geek.
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, otherwise known as TWIG, the flagship of stupidity. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I trek through this strange and wonderful world. Actually, no, it's 2020, and let's admit it's a Mad Max dystopian hellscape where we will soon be strapped to the front of gas-guzzling vehicles, screaming, I'm all shiny and chrome. But I'm not alone as I travel through the wastelands. I'm joined by the man in Kitchener Inn himself, nestled safely in his command bunker.
Alex, but wait, can I be the guy that plays the flame guitar?
Yes. And I will be Immortan Dodd, where I sit upon my throne with my one leg and have a harem of boys and girls, because, hey, I don't discriminate.
It's the future.
Yeah, it's the future. You don't know what's going to be available to you.
All right, no, what's the name of the guy where he has the little thing that screams? Like, he's got the mask on?
I don't know. Because I know there's Immortan Joe was like the lead bad guy, flame guitar guy, Mad Max, Furiosa.
Oh, see, I'm thinking, was it Mad Max or was
Lord
it
Humongous?
Yes.
Yes, Lord Humongous, yes.
Yeah, now the question is, are you the giant dude or are you the little tiny guy that screams?
Oh, little tiny guy.
Yes.
So yes, now that we've brought this Mad Max moment to you on TWIG, yes, you are listening to a podcast that has been running for 13 years, and I'm excited to be here. You're excited to be here. We are here to fill you up with knowledge, stupidity, and among other things. So as always, we typically start the show off by kind of going through what's been going on this past week, and just a few days ago, I was on CJOB out in Winnipeg, where I was talking about a news story we're going to be talking about a little bit later on today, and it is still currently developing, literally minute to minute. We're going to be talking about the Apple v. Fortnite v. Google debacle, and how you as the consumer get fucked no matter what. So we'll be looking forward to that a little bit later on in the show. But it was fantastic to be back on the radio talking about that. I have pitched talking about the DC Fandom, which will be next weekend online. There's a bunch of virtual panels, some of them cool. I know we talked about Rocksteady announcing its Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, but there also might be a panel, I'm pretty sure there is, on Batman Gotham Knights, which is another video game.
And a couple, when we looked at the list, I mean, they're being cheeky about it. It's like, it'll say, new DC movie, ? Yeah, if you put that there, it means new movie.
Yeah. And I think...
And what was like new game, ? New, and then there was like new TV property, ?
Yeah, like I think The Rock is doing something for Black Adam.
Yeah, that was officially announced. That is going to be there.
They're also going to be talking about The Batman with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson, so that should be pretty neat. I'll be interested in that one especially.
I thought you were going to say Robert Picardo as the Batman.
That would be awesome. I would watch the shit out of that. Actually, you know what? He wouldn't make a terrible Alfred.
Very true.
So,
and as far as Black Adam's concerned, hasn't that been in development hell for like at least 5 years?
I think it was announced before Shazam even.
I'm pretty sure they announced it before his first Jumanji movie came out.
Yeah, I'm almost certain of that too. And it's going to be weird to see Zachary Levi fighting The Rock because Black Adam is a Shazam villain. He's basically the anti Shazam.
Yeah, isn't he somebody who is a kid that had the power and has refused to change back?
Or something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't know a ton. It's something that crept up in my brain. I know somebody will correct us, but if that's the case, how cool would that be if it's like, it's this big, tough, evil bad guy, and it's like, no, it's really, he may be like 60 years old, or he's been in that suit forever, but on the inside, he's still 10.
Like, DC has always been one of the weak spots in my geek knowledge just because I never read the comics. But I remember seeing Black Adam. I'm pretty sure it was in one of the Injustice games, and I thought he was particularly cool. And I've seen him. There was that DC animated movie where he shows up for a few minutes and gets the shit kicked out of him. But still. Anyway, let's talk about the week that has happened with me. So, enjoying the summertime, such as it may be. I'm still getting out a whole shit ton. Went on a huge adventure this past week. Decided to go to my local farmers market, which was a lot of fun in downtown Guelph, Ontario. Picked up a lot of fruits and vegetables for Blair. As you guys know, I'm still doing this majority liquid diet right now. I am allowed a few cheats here and there. So I got myself some peaches. I got some strawberries, stuff like that. And for no visible reason, there was a vendor there selling like apple flavored stuff. So, for my sister-in-law, my mom, my roommate, and Blair, we got, apple flavored donuts. I got to try some.
So not like an apple fritter, but like a donut with apple flavoring. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a cake donut. It was really good. And
okay, that's interesting.
And then I bought myself hard apple cider. And I said this to the vendor word for word. I don't know what that is, but I want it. I'll take 2, please.
It's you remember Mike's Hard Lemonade when that came out?
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
It's just apples. It's what we would have called like moonshine back in the day, because it's just apple cider that's has more alcohol content.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to having that at some point this summer, maybe.
It's one of those things where you have it on a day where you're not taking any pain pills.
Yeah,
that'll mess.
Don't mix and match.
Take it from somebody in high school who made that mistake.
So yeah, that was fun. Had a minor problem with one of the local transportation companies around here. Basically, long story short, I got fat shamed by this real asshole. And it got really heated for a moment. He made Blair cry and have a mini panic attack. However, though, that being said, one of the local friendos that I know here in town decided to step up to the plate, and the situation will be promptly dealt with. And that's all I really want to say about it. But still,
all you can really do in those situations is report the person so they don't repeat the same kind of actions again.
Exactly. I mean, do your due diligence, make sure you logged everything, be courteous, and don't be a dick at the end.
And the same goes if you're somebody who works as an employee in a company that's, dealing with the public. You got to know that you got to be on better behavior, because everything you do is logged and tracked.
Yeah, so don't be an asshole at the end of the day. And then the last part of my adventure is my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law came over for her belated birthday dinner. So after dinner, Kara, that's her name, and I went for a huge walk/roll around my neighborhood. And to many of you, that may not be a huge kind of deal, but we walked to a small park that has one of those little libraries in it. So I donated some of the books that I've been reviewing over the last couple of years that I just happen to have extras of. And
for people that don't know what you mean, it is basically like a sort of a cupboard lockbox that you can put things in and anybody can grab from, right?
Yep. And I donated a bunch of Mass Effect novels that I had, some Star Wars books that I had left over, and just basically a bunch of nerdy stuff. And when I went back to visit last night to see what was there, almost everything was missing, and I returned a few more things. I put in
All you can hope for is that somebody didn't swipe him and try to bring him to the used bookstore.
Yeah, like I'm hoping at the end of the day, some kid or some nerd is getting to live the adventures in the Mass Effect universe or the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Do you know what that is, Michael? That's like the professional and family-friendly version of forest porn.
Oh, God. On that note, finally, we did drive around the neighborhood, and I went to places that I had never been before. So we went up to a further park that's a couple of blocks up from my house. And again, may not sound like a big deal, but when you're in a motorized wheelchair and your center of gravity is off because you're a bigger dude, every little bump and nick in the sidewalk is a risk. So it was an adventure. We almost had a couple of close calls. I almost ran over Kara and almost ran over a small Asian woman at one point, but still had a fantastic time. It was great. I'm really glad that I did it, and I'm looking forward to doing a further adventure at some point again. So that's what I've been up to. Alex, what about you?
Well, I was going to say, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad that you're finally getting out and getting the freedom that you've wanted for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, this was a week of rearranging, trying to find the best way to use the space in my apartment to its most efficient. So my mom came by and helped me do like full rearranging of where furniture was. We went through closets and storage and bundled things together so that they were stored better. Figured out a better way to do to hang up all my clothes in my closet while giving me the most amount of space. Full scrub of the house. Basically, it was 2 days of making sure everything was just the best it can be, which was nice. It actually feels more open and fresh because being in a apartment where I'm like half underground, it's bottom floor of an apartment where half of it's like at ground level and half of it's like dug into the side of a hill. It could not that it's claustrophobic, but you know what I mean? It can be darker in there. So we found a way to lighten up the apartment without letting too much like light in. We have better curtains up. It was basically that, catching up on things I've been wanting to do review wise. I got some stuff that I can't talk about for a couple weeks, but that I've been working on there. And it was finally like a week of just relaxing because it's been sort of go, especially when you were on vacation, where it's just like now I can just like, I'm putting my feet up. I'm just relaxing. I'm like, what else should I do? What else can I do?
So yeah, that's good to hear. Speaking of vacation, you're going to take 2 weeks off sometime in September, correct?
Yeah, I'm figuring sometime at the, maybe middle to end of September, I'll catch up, take a couple weeks off. We'll pre-record some stuff ahead of time and have it scheduled, and then see where that goes. Because basically, want to make sure that we're all rested for whenever the new console stuff starts to hit.
Whenever the hell that is.
The news and everything is going to start being crazy. It's probably, even with the pandemic, it's going to be a very busy, October, November, December. More so than any time since, wait a minute. Actually, when you started the podcast, we're talking 12, 13 years ago, is probably the last time it was that busy.
Yeah, it hasn't been this busy in a ridiculously long time. So, yeah. Well,
because even like the last time they launched the consoles in 2013, it didn't seem like there was as much fervor around it. Whereas when, because you got to remember when you started this podcast, it's when like the Wii was launching.
Yeah, it was like,
and you remember
Xbox
like
360.
The 360 had already been out for about a year or nearly or so. Maybe a year and a half, but like when you started this podcast is right when everything was launching or was like within the launch window. So that fever was around. And I can't think of another time where it's been like that, like it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking forward to covering these new consoles, but just give me a fucking pre-order date already. So
yes, no more showcases, no more presentations. I don't want to hear anything from any company until I have a price and a date so that I can budget for it.
Exactly, because we'll talk about that. But anyway, that's going to do it for our intro to the show. So we will be talking about lots of stuff from around the world of entertainment, video games, Hollywood, and of course, Apple v. Fortnite versus Google versus everybody. We're going to talk about that. We also have a variety of weird and strange news, as we often do each and every week. Reviews this week will be coming from RPG publisher Modiphius. We'll be taking a look at some of Star Trek's iconic villains. We're also going to be taking a trip down to Vinegar Syndrome and looking at a horror movie that was released back in 1992 called Dolly Dearest. And finally, from Alex, we'll have a selection of Mill Creek releases that he took a look at recently. So we're going to start things off by taking a trip down to Mexico and a little doll called Dolly.
This is the doll your daddy's going to make in Mexico. And this is the factory where we're going to make her and sew her little dresses. Isn't she beautiful?
May I have one, Daddy?
From the moment they met,
I'm going to love her so much.
it was a fairy tale come true.
Good night, Dolly.
Sweet dreams, Dolly.
But this is where the fairy tale ends and the nightmare begins.
Dolly?
Hey guys, it's Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here with yet another Blu-ray review from our good friends over at Vinegar Syndrome. We're going to be taking a look at the Blu-ray DVD release of Dolly Dearest. This is a movie that I assure you, you probably haven't heard of, although you probably have seen the box art if you happen to be haunting video stores all the way back in 1992. Or if you happen to live in the Midwest, it's actually got a weird theatrical release. Certainly not up here in Canada, but I digress. So what this is Tasha Yar and Agent Zed from Men in Black fight Discount Chucky, would be the best way to describe this movie. Family moves to Mexico because the father has bought a doll-making business. Evil doll is somehow connected to this devil goat baby thing, and it starts possessing the little girl who lives in the family, and hilarity ensues. Now, this movie, I would presume, wanted to kind of capitalize on the Child's Play phenomenon when it came out in the late 80s, and then Child's Play 2. One of the things I will say about this movie, though, before I get into my proper review, special effects were surprisingly good for the Dolly animatronic or puppet. Just before animatronics really kind of took off for horror movies, I think Chucky really paved the way for that, especially in how it moved, although a lot of the Dolly actions were done by a little person. I think his name is Ed Gale. There actually is an interview with him on the disc. I'll talk about that in a little bit more depth in a minute. But it does have an interesting concept. I like the idea of this tomb being sealed away, this demon baby thing being locked in there for like 1,000 years or whatever, and wreaks havoc because it is the devil of the earth, or Sansa, or something like that. Neat idea. Good cast in this. Denise Crosby, I think, is a little bit underused. She gets really good around the last half of this movie. Rip Torn controls any scene that he's in. So that was different because the only thing I really know him from is Men in Black and Freddy Got Fingered. So my cinematic depth is huge. But that being said, entertaining performances nonetheless. And the kid who plays the little brother Jimmy, tremendously entertaining. I would watch a movie about him, honestly. I thought he stole the show when he shoots Dolly through a door with a shotgun and says, "Play with this, bitch." It's funny. It's stupid, but it's funny. And that's the thing. This movie has its moments. Like, the warehouse sequence and anything past that it's okay. It's passable. It's fine. It's not the high point of horror movie thrills. It's not a gore fest. It's entertaining, but you could probably imagine something a lot scarier, all things considered. The first half of this movie is, honestly, it's a slog to get through. I didn't have a lot of fun watching the setup for this. But to talk about the disc itself, so what you're getting here is you're getting a Blu-ray DVD combo, which is region-free. You're getting a newly scanned and restored in 2K from the 35mm interpositive. You get 2 special features with this. You get Playing with Dolls, which is an interview with Denise Crosby, and it's nice to see her talking about this, especially after so many years and so many roles since then. It's kind of cool just to hear her speak about this. Dressing the Part, an interview with Ed Gale. Ed Gale is the person who would occasionally be Dolly when she was running or opening doors or doing things that required a little bit more manual dexterity. So that was interesting to hear his perspective, because I think he said he worked on Child's Play as well. And then you get reversible art cover. I'm actually using the second one, which I guess might be a unique poster. I don't know. I don't recognize this particular box art. The original one where she's sitting on the floor with the straight razor is the box art I remember from my local small town video store of less than 500 people. Why the hell we ended up with a copy of Dolly Dearest, I'll never know. Maybe one of the owners of the store was a secret horror fanatic. So that brings up the question, is this movie worth adding to your collection? Well, I'm actually going to have to say no. The movie itself is not very entertaining. I mean, the concept is more fascinating than the movie itself, and that's honestly a big disappointment. And I can't see much of a market for a Chucky clone if you want a like horror movie thrill. I can think of better ways to spend $25. I'm sure you can too. I mean, there are other great cinema releases from this company. I mean, I'm a big fan of Spookies. It's a bad movie, but it's entertaining, and the special features are second to none. So yeah, I'm actually going to recommend that you stay away from Dolly Dearest unless you have a real memory with this movie. So if you want to see Tasha Yar fight Great Value brand Chucky, this is your movie.
Play with this, bitch.
News on the march!
Alright, welcome back to TWIG, otherwise known as the flagship of stupidity, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike, the Birdman, followed by Alex, producer. Let's talk about the things that happened around the entertainment and the world this past week that may or may not be impacting your life in some capacity in the year 2020, the year of the honorable dumpster. So, in a little bit of good news, according to Digital Trends, Persona 4 Golden's success on PC is pushing Sega to consider more ports. Sega Sammy is planning to port more previously released games to other platforms after the resounding success of Persona 4 Golden's launch on PC. Sega, which had held a question and answer presentation for its investors after releasing its financial results for the April to June quarter, received a query about whether there are plans to include Steam among the platforms for new titles after the performance of Persona 4 Golden on the platform. In its response, Sega confirmed that it is considering PC versions of games in development for multi-platform releases, such as Persona 4 Golden. Sales were much stronger than expected, as translated by Persona Central. Sega said that it also will be prompting ports to previously released games to Steam and other platforms, so it appears that Persona 4 Golden will not be the last game to be ported to PC. Its commitment to ports that have already started with Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster, set to release worldwide for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 in spring 2021. Persona 4 Golden, which was previously a PlayStation Vita exclusive, launched for PC through Steam in June with a $20 price tag for the standard edition. Developed by Sega Unit Atlas, the RPG is generally considered to be one of the best games on Sony's discontinued handheld, but the exclusivity limited its reach. In less than a month, Persona 4 Golden had reached a milestone 500,000 players on PC, with the achievement just in time for the 12th anniversary of the game's launch on the PlayStation 2 in Japan. They would be smart to port other titles to other consoles or other platforms, such as Steam.
The easiest to do, honestly, would be the PS4 version of Persona 5 Royal, because every previous game had been for either like if we're talking like in the Persona or the Shin Megami Tensei series, they were either ARM-based stuff for like portable consoles, like the ARM chips that they use in the Nintendo DS, or they were like custom chips that were in like the PS2 or the weird PS3 or PS1, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there was Persona 5 did have a PS3 version. In fact, I believe it's the last major release to release on the platform, because that was like 10 years into its life cycle, or more actually. I think it was like 12 years in. But the PS4 version, especially of Royal, that's an AMD processor. That's regular PC hardware. So as far as doing a port for that, it's just as easy as flipping a couple switches, right? And doing a very quick port. They could have that ready in a few months. And then on PC, you could play it in 4K with I don't know, they could even add some features like HDR support or 8K super sampling. There's a lot of stuff you could do to make that game shine even more. And it was already one of the best looking games on the platform due to its visual style. But could you imagine playing that with HDR on or with ray traced lighting or something for some of those more dynamic scenes? It's not like it's an overly ambitious title to actually run, right? Because it is 3D, but it has that over stylized cartoony look.
I mean, one of the things I would do if I was Sega/Atlas, I would port all the Dancing in Starlight games to the Switch. I would port Persona 4 Golden.
And a PC, because again, it's an easy port if you're doing the ones that were, because they were originally made for the PS4 versions. If you're doing, like Atlas has a pretty good history with other titles too that they could port that would be fairly easy to run if they're in similar engines. The harder stuff would be some of the PS1, PS2 era or the ARM-based processor stuff, unless you could port a lot of the stuff that they had on the 3DS and 2DS over to Switch, because they're still ARM-based. So it's a lot easier to do that, which is, I'm surprised we haven't seen that. What were those games? The Digital Devil Summoner or something?
Yeah.
Or there were a couple of those. Then they went from DS to 3DS, but they didn't port those guys over to the Switch. And I'm kind of surprised that those might be imminent, because those are fairly easy to port. But there's a lot of PS1, PS2 era stuff. Like, people would love to see, the original Persona 1 and 2. They had really archaic control schemes for them. People are wanting full-blown remakes of those. But Persona 3, which I've heard from people, a lot of people say it's the best story out of all of them. And it's the darkest and just one of the ones that is sort of slipped by the public conscious, because 4 came out a year or two later on the PS2 and sort of eclipsed it initially in sales. But 3 had a special edition come out later, and then there was a PSP version. But people would love to see that if it was, maybe take the PSP version or add some of the features of the PS2 version and use that same engine they used when they ported it over Persona 4 Golden. Ask, $25 for it or something, maybe 30. People pay it.
Yeah.
You get like a 100-hour game that has a critically acclaimed story, and it's in a similar vein. Like, it won't have some of the quality of life upgrades that Persona 4 Golden had, but who knows? They could just bake some of those in later on if they use the same engine. Mm-hmm. If you're going with Sega, there's other titles. People would love to see the Phantasy Star series or a lot of others, but I feel like they'll do the Atlas titles first, because there are a lot of the ones that haven't had ports to other systems yet. It would be very interesting, but I think the first one they'll do would be, depending on their deal with Sony, because it's looking more and more like Persona 5, like everything revolving around it seems to be locked to that system. But there are a few others. Like you said, the dancing ones would be great.
Well, didn't Strikers come out for the Switch and PS4?
I'm not 100% sure. All the marketing I've seen for it have been
PS4 for sure.
Yeah. What would be great? Porting over those fighting games. Persona 4, was it Ultimax? And
Arena? That was a lot of fun. Persona 4 Arena, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, so it is available on the Switch, the Persona 5 Strikers, but I've seen no marketing for it other than on the PS4.
Yeah, so We'll wait and see. We're going to keep going with a bunch of gaming news because this week just happens to be heavy with it. And let's talk about the big elephant in the room. This news, unsurprisingly, came out earlier this week. Halo Infinite has been delayed to 2021, as reported by multiple outlets, though I am reading the story from Kotaku.
Should surprise no one with those graphics. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, what they say is 343 Industries has announced that Halo Infinite will launch in 2021, missing its original holiday 2020 release window. The decision to shift our release is the result of multiple factors that have contributed to the development challenges, including the ongoing COVID-related impacts affecting us all this year, studio head Chris Lee explained via Twitter. I want to acknowledge the hard work from our team at 343 Industries who have remained committed to making a great game and finding solutions to development challenges. However, it is not sustainable for the well-being of our team or the overall success of the game to ship this holiday. Halo Infinite was previously planned to be the crown jewel in the Xbox Series X launch window. A recent gameplay reveal showed the game to be a return to the series' roots, which added an open-world spin. The graphics, however, were decried as not being up to snuff for a next-gen game, prompting a response from the studio explaining the process of developing Halo Infinite's visuals and its overall goal for the project's aesthetics. We know this will be disappointing to many of you, as we share in that sentiment. Lee's statement continues. We wanted nothing more than to play our game with the community this holiday. The extra time will let us finish the critical work necessary to deliver the most ambitious Halo game ever at the quality we know our fans expect. Tim Longo, former Halo Infinite creative director, left 343 Industries almost a year ago during what sources described to Kotaku at the time as a shift in leadership. Longo had previously served in the same role on Halo 5 Guardians. This is going to hurt the Xbox Series X more than they think.
They're in a weird position. A lot of people are touting the Game Pass and xCloud and everything. You know what?
That's cool and all,
what reason is there to buy an Xbox Series X if you have a computer or if you have an Xbox One?
Yeah, because you already have 4K, which you can play we can play your kind of Blu-rays.
And I mean, like, let's say you and I have, like, you got a new computer set up, and I've got a fairly new computer set up we have the same video card, for an upgrade that costs, pretty much half of what we're expecting the system to cost. We can do 1080p Ultra, and that's without having xCloud doing a lot of the back end. If we, in September, get xCloud as part of our Game Pass Ultimate, it means we'll be able to, it can do some of it on the back end, but some of it locally. So we'll be able to do 4K gaming if you have a fast enough connection and offload some of it to your current system. So giving us roughly the same experience, not quite the same as having it all local. Like, it is always better to do it all in hardware, but like that could hold us over for another 6 months.
I'm honestly surprised the Halo guys didn't, in announcing the delay of the game, the 2021, I'm surprised they didn't say, but to tide you over in October or November, as promised, here's the multiplayer beta.
Because it's not ready.
Yeah, which is weird because when they showed off the campaign thing at the Xbox showcase, they didn't talk about multiplayer. Halo, people love the story, and that's great and everything, but they didn't build a competitive sports league around it.
They made one comment. They just said it'll be 120 FPS multiplayer.
Yeah.
Meaning it'll be locked to 1080p, or it'll be 4Ks with all the settings down low, which I doubt. Multiplayer, people don't care about the higher res, they care about performance. So it'll probably be 1080p, because if they want, and also it won't be 120 frames per second on the original. Like, even at 720p, the original Xbox can't handle that. So their biggest mistake is trying to, like, it's one thing to do it for PC because you can select your graphic settings, whatever, but they're trying to make it potentially for 5 different systems, because we already know from that leaked controller that came out that there is a Series S in the works. We don't know all the specs on it just yet or anything, but you've got a lower version of that can do maybe 1440p. You've got the Series X, which is 4K. You have the Xbox One X, which is going to be the in-between system that can do 4K upscaling or 4K 60 or maybe 1080. I can do 1080p 120. They already confirmed that. But it's built into the system. It has a feature for that. You have the Xbox One S, which brings the specs up along the lines of the original PlayStation 4. And then you have the VCR, which is what you have.
Yes, the
which is
launch
which couldn't even do Call of Duty Ghosts at above 720p when the PS4 it launched to 1080. So you have all of those generations, and they're saying we're supporting games that come out for the next year and a half to 2 years are on all systems. That's like 5 versions of the same game. And yes, there's a sliding scale of quality, but you always have to develop for the lowest common denominator. Meaning, you're not going to be able to have proper 120 FPS rooms unless you're playing it on a new system or there's some sort of lockout thing. Because how fair would it be if you're on an Xbox Series X playing it at 4K, 120 frames per second, whatever, and then you're also in the same room up against somebody using a 8-year-old original system? It's just not going to work right. Like, it's an unfair advantage. So I'm surprised that they announced the way that like, it's clear that their focus has been on the services without really thinking about where the market is yet for the hardware. You've got people, like, whenever we've done reviews for Stadia games and things, we always have to take into account that we have in Canada better internet than in the States. Period. Pretty much anywhere. Even in the rural areas, a lot of areas here get DSL, and most companies here have no data caps, or there's a tier where maybe for $10 more than your current plan you can get unlimited data. That's not the case in the States. From what we've been hearing from like a lot of fans and listeners, like most parts of the States you still have hard data caps, or you have like maximum 50 meg service. So there's like, they're not prepared like for this jump to this technology. So there's going to be a lot of people that can't take advantage of xCloud or Game Pass. And they're going to be left saying, well, I'm not buying this system because there's no games for me to play on it. And the argument of, oh, hey, we've got 100 games ready at launch, or here, the best version will be on here. No, the best version will be on PC because you're developing all of these games to work on PC. If Game Pass Ultimate didn't include PC at all, there'd be a reason to get the Xbox.
I mean, we're mostly getting the next generation consoles because we offer coverage. That's what we do, and that's what we enjoy.
We have to offer coverage on whatever platform's available, because it would be unfair if we're getting review copies of these Series X games and we're playing them on the original Xbox One.
Yeah.
It wouldn't do it justice. There's also the media capabilities of it, the 4K player. There are other features that will be involved. We might have to review features that you can't do on the other ones, like the sharing button and whatever other robust features they're adding. So we've got to review it that way. But if I was a regular consumer, nothing they've shown has said we have a strong launch.
Yeah, nothing says buy me
for at least a year. Like,
but hey, who knows? Maybe they'll pull out something.
The medium looks good, and I think that's exclusive. But that's exclusive to PC and that as well, right? But like the medium, I think is coming out around launch or in the launch window. Everything else is available on pretty much every other platform that at least I would want to play. Whereas with the PlayStation, say what you will about, they're forcing the ecosystem change and all this. Like, the games just look better and they look farther along. Now, there's some that we're probably going to be waiting 1 to 2 years for. I doubt anything they showed will take longer than 2022.
Yeah. Because
they looked far enough along, even from the CG trailers, they looked polished enough. And they didn't look fake. You know what I mean? They didn't look like a lot of the Microsoft videos looked like they were faked or done by a third-party studio that was just showing a cinematic, not using any in-game engine. They made a point at the PlayStation showcase to say every game you see here, every trailer you see here is done in the engine on the system. So that means they're pretty much ready to go with a lot of the titles. So I'm not a fanboy either way. I want to play good games on any system that comes out. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this looks bad for their holiday season.
Yeah, I am not optimistic. We'll have to wait and see what their launch window is, because if we don't have a price and a launch date by September 2nd, be fucking worried.
And I'm not trying to downplay, like, I'm not bad-mouthing Halo or the graphics, because people say, oh, a lot of people liked it because they said it looked like the original title. That's cool. Nothing they showed looks next gen.
There's nothing wow factor.
And it doesn't have to be like, oh, they all have to have these features, but like, it wasn't even that. It clearly didn't look complete.
I think Halo 5 Guardians looked a little better.
It did, and I've been doing comparison shots, like just on the computer and downloading high-res assets from the press sites. It looked better. It's multiple years old. Not to mention, the biggest mistake they made was using a PC to show it that didn't have the SSD technology that they were wanting to use, because it had pop-in. And it had pop-in like worse than we've seen in the last couple of years. So I was like, why did you show off a game that looks worse than the previous entry in the series? So they should have shown nothing. They should have said, before the show, they should have said, hey, they should have
progress.
They should have shown nothing at all. But I feel like they gambled and went, hey, we have to show something because the rest of our show kind of looks like shit. Or the rest of their show, including the Fable, that's like a 2023 release. Some of those games that they showed off are not coming for 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So oof.
So moving on to our next story, we're just going to talk about this one kind of briefly. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines also got a delay. It'll be releasing in 2021. This story comes courtesy of PCGamer.com. Studio Hardsuit Labs announced last week the rebooted RPG was originally scheduled to release in March, but was later moved to an unspecified date in late 2020. The statement doesn't indicate when in 2021 the game will launch, but given the lack of updates recently, the news is no surprise. Here is the full statement. Our goal has always been to deliver the best game possible, to immerse you in a Seattle reimagined in the world of darkness, and deliver a worthy successor to the original Bloodline game. The statement reads, due to the quality bar and the ambitions we have set for ourselves, we have made the difficult decision that we need more time. This means that our goal to release in 2020 is no longer possible. Moving launch is one of the challenges we are making to ensure the best player experience possible. This is part of the article. Just quietly, it's probably a wise move all around. Cyberpunk 2077 is likely to dominate any talk about RPGs in the last quarter of the year, and it'll be nice to have a sprawling vampire game with even more polish in 2021. Based on everything we know about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, it'll be probably worth the wait. That's okay.
Yeah, you know what? The
I'm okay
graphics looked very PS3. It looked rough. When they were showing it off, remember how it was part of one of those press conferences too? It looked very out of place. Like, I don't know. Everything looked plasticky, and I know it's a smaller team, and it looks like it would be a fun game as far as gameplay goes, but it looked very 2005, 2006.
It could look better. I'm excited for what it can offer. I'm just happy to be playing a World of Darkness game.
My guess is this is a graphics engine retool. They're probably getting an upgraded version that will implement some of the better lighting effects. Because it looks like a game that if it had proper RTX like ray trace lighting, I feel like it would do a lot for that game.
Yeah.
It's a game that needs the shadows. It needs the realistic lighting. And once that's in there, keep the graphics the way they are, but have that realistic lighting implemented. It'll be night and day different.
Yeah. So our next story kind of continues along a little bit of video game news, and it's definitely going to be dominating the news cycle, at least for the foreseeable future. This story comes courtesy of Kotaku and reported on by multiple outlets. I've even thrown in my 2 cents about it, and YouTuber Jim Sterling did a video on it recently as well. Following Epic's release of its own direct payment method for Fortnite on Apple and Android mobile devices last week, Apple has removed the popular Battle Royale from its store. In response, Epic has filed a legal injunction against Apple. All games on the App Store are required to use Apple's payment system for any in-game purchases, including, until last week, buying Fortnite's in-game currency V-Bucks, which can be spent on skins, items, and the in-game's Battle Pass. Epic has long complained that Apple's requirement, which results in 30% of all payments going to Apple, is unfair. This morning, Epic started selling V-Bucks in the mobile version of Fortnite at a discount via a new option to buy from Epic directly. This violated Apple's rules and resulted in Apple kicking Fortnite out of the store. There is no doubt Epic knew this was going to happen, as they had a lawsuit, a commercial, and a pre-planned social media hashtag all prepared to complain about Apple as soon as it happened. Apple explained in its removal of Fortnite in a statement to The Verge. Today, Epic Games took the unfortunate step of violating the App Store guidelines that are applied equally to every developer and designed to keep the store safe for all its users. As a result, their Fortnite app has been removed from the store. Epic enabled a feature in its app which was not reviewed or approved by Apple, and they did so with the express intent of violating the App Store guidelines regarding in-app payments that apply to every developer who sells digital goods or services. Epic has had apps on the App Store for a decade and have benefited from the App Store ecosystem, including its tools, testing, and distribution that Apple provides to all developers. Epic agreed to the App Store terms and guidelines freely, and we're glad that they've built such a successful business on the App Store. The fact that their business interests now lead them to push for a special arrangement does not change the fact that these guidelines create a level playing field for all developers and make the store safe for all users. We will make every effort to work with Epic to resolve these violations so they can return Fortnite to the App Store. There's a lot here, so that's basically the long short of it. Google has done the same thing.
Headline: Corporate Greed 2020.
Yeah, pretty much.
All around Corporate Greed 2020.
Jim Sterling kind of summed it up best. It's a corporate slap fight, and at the end of the day, consumers lose because
no matter what this outcome is, the outcome is arguing over how much money they can take from you.
Yes, exactly. I mean, ultimately, if Epic could be in Apple's position, because Apple holds a dominating market share in terms of its App Store reach, in terms of the amount of iPhones and other tech out there. If Epic could have that and not be challenged, they wouldn't care. They don't care about you at all. And same with Google. Everybody uses it. Like, what are you going to do? So fuck off. I don't care whether, I think the guy at Epic, I think his name's Tim Sweeney, I want to say. Tim something. I don't care whether he gets another fucking Lambo this year.
Well, it's like don't market this as something for the fans.
Yeah, like free Fortnite. Get fucked.
Shit.
And here's the thing. The fact that they had a commercial ready to go that I promise you, not one of your Fortnite players who isn't our age fucking gets, and I barely get it, and I'm almost 40.
Dude, that commercial came out when you were 3.
Yeah,
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, like fuck off.
And why do I know about it? From history class and from English class reading the actual book.
Yeah,
1984.
Like nobody.
You know what I
gets
mean?
it.
Like, and I don't even know if that's mandatory reading anymore. But very important book. It's prophetic. What they don't get is this whole them doing the 1984 commercial in their own sort of thing with their own marketing within the game Fortnite. They're not realizing that they're actually portraying themselves as the evil overlords.
Yeah, and
they don't see how hypocritical what they're doing is.
Now it's kind of fucked up because Apple removing this, I mean, it doesn't remove the game from your phone. However, you can still currently play Fortnite, but the new season of the game starts later on. So Epic notes, this is part of the story according to Eurogamer's Tom Phillips, because Apple has blocked your ability to update when Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 4 releases, you will not be able to play the new season on iOS. Epic encourages players to rally around a hashtag #FreeFortnite, and complain to Apple and make your voice heard in the fight against app tax. It's a clever move on Epic's part. While players might not care about Tim Sweeney's crusade for the free market, they'll certainly care if they can't play the game. Honestly, if you're playing Fortnite, in my opinion, you're probably playing on PC because a console player will get destroyed because you can't build fast enough. If you're playing on mobile, what the fuck are you doing?
Also, like 90% of their players are children.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all young people, and the V-Bucks thing.
And when I mean children, I don't mean like, oh, everybody younger than me is a child. I mean like minors.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the people playing that shouldn't have access to a credit card to pay for these extras anyway.
But you can link it to your PayPal, which that's
exactly
fucked up too. Yeah.
See, I have a problem. I view
it's a little too accessible.
I view any game like that has this sort of payment plan and whose market is kids the ages of, like, let's be honest, it's about 8 to like 17 is the average age for the players.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gambling, but it may as well be. You're just stealing the kids' money to get extra skins. The games aren't, in my personal opinion, that fun. It's just a whole lot of wacky colors and kids screaming at the TV when they don't get things right. Like, it's become what people playing like multiplayer Halo was back in the day. You know what I mean? Just a bunch of kids screaming.
Fortnite is fun, but the skill ceiling is so high that it's not fun for me. Like, I play COD. I need the ability to respawn.
It's 90% kids that want to be famous, 8% or 9% pro players, and like 1% people that play it for 10 minutes and go, that's not for me.
Yeah, like, I've played 3 games of Fortnite. I got 1 kill, and I literally said to Blair, all right, cool, gonna retire a champion, and that's the last time I played it.
Like, they literally made an in-game video, like you said, like that, a reference that nobody would get, trying to make a cool meme on something that was 36 years old.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's at the end of the day, who gets the most money at the end of it? These companies do not care about you.
I guess the argument could be made that it wasn't made, that video wasn't made for the kids. That was made to basically like give a middle finger to Apple directly, because it's mocking their commercial, which in itself was kind of in poor taste when they made it about 1984 anyway. Like, it was made to go against IBM, like the ZX Spectrum and the standard 8-bit PCs of the time. So, like, it in itself, like you said, nobody wins with this. You've had Google and a couple other people jump on this as well. Was it Activision? Somebody else has jumped on board with this, and they're all suing each other now. It's like 3 or 4 companies, and it's basically, like you said, a slapping fight between all the big corporations. Nobody ends up winning. The only way you would win at this is if they banned microtransactions entirely. Make your games better. Make a game that's fun to play without the need for this shit.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't mind grinding for unlocks. I mean, even with Call of Duty's in-game purchase system this year, you pay for the Battle Pass if you want it. You get more items, but the guns are free. You can grind for them, or you can pay for them. There is no paywall. It's unlike supply drops, which Activision started with Advanced Warfare.
I know they make seasons or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay, charge $10 a season for extra shit.
I think Fortnite's, I think it's about 20, and I know Call of Duty's is about 20-ish.
You know what I mean? Like do something like that, and then you get all the stuff that's available. It's like, no, they're trying to milk money out of 10-year-olds, and now they're arguing over, I want 30% of that 10-year-old's money.
Yeah, like, it's time to stop.
At the same time, they have 1 point.
And it sucks, because just because these companies want more money, it isn't going to the poor dev who's working in the art studio to make your Fortnite skin look better. It's not going to anybody.
It's not going to the people in customer service that are helping you. It's not going to anybody like that. It's going to people like Tim Sweeney who are taking multi-million-dollar bonuses.
Yeah,
you're lining his paycheck, and that's the only person that it doesn't trickle down. It goes to the top 5% of the company, and nobody else ever sees it. So they personally couldn't care less. All they care about is, we got to keep making them, because if we don't, they'll find somebody else who will.
Yeah.
And it sort of ties in with how, the xCloud isn't going to be on Apple, because they cited a statement saying that we would have to rate every game in your xCloud library individually, and you'd have to submit them. Well, when you submit them, you have to pay them to have them rate them. So they're like, no, these are games that are already rated by the ESRB. And it's just a way for them to try to make money or try to get away from it, because they have the Apple Arcade and they don't want to compete with xCloud. So they're suing them over that. Like, there is a point to be made of, like, I think it was Microsoft that said, well, you don't charge Netflix and make them rate every single movie in the Netflix app, do you? Why is it you're making us do that for games when it's the exact same service? And they won't respond. So they're all fucking evil.
Yep. So moving on to our next story, and the next few stories, I'm not going to lie, are actually kind of bummers. But as reported by the HollywoodReporter.com, the majority of staff at the streaming service DC Universe has been laid off, as has the editor-in-chief, Bob Harris, and multiple other executives on the publishing side. Monday's Warner Media layoffs have affected a significant number of high-level figures at the comic book powerhouse DC, multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. Among those said to be losing their positions are editor-in-chief Bob Harris, Senior VP of Publishing Strategy and Support Desk Services, Hank Callants, VP of Marketing and Creative Services, Jonah Wayland, VP Global Publishing Initiatives and Digital Strategy, Bobby Chase, Senior Story Editor Brian Cunningham, Executive Editor Mark Doyle, who oversaw the rollout of the Black Label graphic novels. Jim Lee still remains CEO. Roughly 1/3 of DC's editorial ranks are being laid off, according to sources. Insiders also say the majority of the staff of the streaming service DC Universe has been laid off, a move that is widely expected as Warner Media shifts its focus to new streaming service HBO Max. DC Universe was DOA as soon as the AT&T merger happened, said one source. DC Universe launched in May 2018 and is home to live-action series such as Doom Patrol, Titans, and Stargirl, as well as the animated offerings including Young Justice and Harley Quinn.
To give you an idea, Stargirl is aired day and date on the CW, and next season is CW exclusive. Doom Patrol had a multi-year contract, but they're airing back-to-back. I believe the next season is moving directly to CW. It's going to HBO Max. Titans has some sort of weird deal where as long as that show is being produced, it has to stay on there. And the cartoons can move whenever they want. And they never ended up producing half of the shows they said they were going to. They actually canceled them or have shifted them over already. So there's like 6 shows entirely on the network. That's it.
Some of those shows that have now started to stream on HBO Max. Also a victim of the layoffs is DC Direct, the company's in-house merchandise and collectibles manufacturer. The division has been shuttered after 22 years, another move that was rumored when Warner Brothers Consumer Products began taking a more active role in DC merchandising. A DC spokesperson declined to comment on the changes, which come less than 2 weeks before the August 22nd online DC Fandom, which is set to showcase stars from DC's film, television, and comic book worlds. I saw a quote somewhere that a lot of the DC licensing will move over to McFarlane Toys, which isn't terrible.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, they do stuff for Marvel. They do stuff for like everybody, so who cares?
I haven't
McFarlane, he loves it.
Yeah, I haven't kept up in the McFarlane or the toy collecting world, but I remember as a kid in the 90s, the McFarlane toys were considered well above anything else that was in like regular toy grade that wasn't like a full collector's item.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best figures companies, McFarlane still does fantastic stuff. NECA, I'm really coming around on.
Now, what's the one that does the Square Enix stuff? I think they have their own. It's Play Arts or something?
Yeah, Play Arts Kai. Their stuff is fantastic. Their stuff is expensive, but you get what you pay for. I've owned all the Mass Effect Play Arts Kai stuff at one point, and I've owned all the Spartans from Halo Reach.
And then Hot Toys is the other one. Are they playable toys, or are they more meant for just collectible?
Both. Playable in terms that you could get some light play out of them. I mean, I wouldn't give them to anybody below 12 years old.
Whereas a McFarlane toy you can give to anybody, right?
Depending on how many accessories, as long as you know where all the accessories go.
Like you're not likely to snap an arm off too easily, sort of thing.
Not in recent years. Like, I find the McFarlane quality control has gone up since the 90s. Before those figures, they looked pretty, but they were fragile, and that's just a difference in the manufacturing process.
I had one Spawn, and it was it not the modern? It was like medieval Spawn or something.
Medieval Spawn, if I had to guess.
And that one had a cape, and it seemed really robust. And I threw that thing around pretty hard, and that was mid to late 90s. Which, again, surprised that was a kids' toy line.
Yeah, because their sculpts were fantastic. So it really sucks to see what happened to DC Direct, but I know the toy license, it prints money. People will still buy the figures no matter what. As for the other thing, Jim Lee had a quote I saw recently, something along the lines of, "We're still in the business of publishing comics, so don't worry about that." Makes sense. We'll wait and see what happens with that. And that kind of brings me up to my next story. AT&T is in talks to sell Crunchyroll to Sony for $1.5 billion. This comes courtesy of comicbook.com. There's no denying that Crunchyroll is a cornerstone in the world of anime and manga. The site boasts millions of users around the world and hosts many of the industry's leading shows. As of right now, the brand is nestled under AT&T's as part of Warner Media, but a new report suggests the company hopes to sell the anime leader to Sony. The information comes from The Information, who exclusively reports on the deal. Is far from certain. AT&T approached Sony about the deal to sell Crunchyroll, and it is a smart move to do so. After all, Sony does own Funimation, which is widely considered the largest anime licensor in the United States. The only issue comes down to cost now. As the report goes, AT&T is asking for a whopping $1.5 billion for Crunchyroll. This price made Sony balk, according to the sources, as analysts say the asking price is far above any other niche streaming service. But given anime's popularity growing in the West, the deal hasn't been shut down entirely by Sony. It is difficult to ignore the strides anime has taken in the United States and globally as of late. Netflix and Amazon have taken great interest in anime, and there have been sites such as Hulu streaming Japanese series shows like My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super continue to rope in millions of fans. Sony knows this is given its oversight of Funimation. Of course, there is the question of why AT&T wants to offload the brand, and that answer comes down to debt. Warner Media does have significant debt to its name to the tune of $151 billion. And while the CEO of Warner Media, Jason Kilar, is a fan of Crunchyroll, he admits a sale could go down if the right price is attached. It would be interesting to see everything under Crunchyroll under the Funimation banner.
Because Crunchyroll, I've only started watching anime in the last 2 years, really. From what I've seen, Crunchyroll was mostly subs.
Yep.
They do have a handful, I don't know the exact amount, but it looks like a few per season, winters. They do, I think they run not in 4 seasons, it'll be like fall to winter, winter to spring, summer. They'll have a handful of dubs as well, which is pretty rare. Most of the dubs most of them are Funimation, or they'll go to High Dive, and they have a dub cast they do where it's simul-dubbed as well. And their website's kind of crap.
Yeah, I was subscribed.
It's really, it feels very 2006. You know what I mean?
It's not very user-friendly. I was subscribed to Crunchyroll for 6 months, and I didn't like it. And I paid into it, but I don't like reading subtitles. Yeah, I know. Fuck me.
Well, and that is, sometimes it can be, it's not necessarily your case, but there is a case where some people have a harder time processing the text and voice at the same time.
It comes so fast too.
Yeah, it'll go fast, and it's not just about reading. Some people have reading comprehension issues. That's one factor. Other people have processing issues where they'll read the text fast enough, but it won't process in their mind to correspond to what's happening on screen till a second or two later. So it's almost it's not like lag in the video, but it could be lag in your comprehension of it. And that can create a lot of issues for people if a show is very fast paced. I'm usually pretty good, but I prefer dubs because I found that dubs are starting to get more well done, especially when you get Blu-ray releases where they have them in surround sound. Japanese releases very rarely have surround sound, which, I like having my audio voices come out the center speaker because it's usually clearer. At the same time, I also, unless it's an anime that I'm really enjoying, I like to have anime on in the background when I'm doing other work. And, if I hear something really cool happen, I'll flip over. But if I'm hearing a bunch of stuff I don't understand, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So for somebody like you or I, where we might want to have more things on the go, I know you like to play around with your phone or do emails at the same time, same as me when I'm watching anime. Unless I'm seeing an anime movie or seeing something in theaters, or if it's one of the shows I absolutely must watch, I want to be able to just hear what's happening too.
So I guess we'll wait and see what happens with this. I think Warner would be smart to sell this off. So
the only thing is, competition's good. We have other companies popping up like High Dive's there, and I know other, you'll have Amazon, other companies have anime sections, but if this moves over and it all becomes Funimation, it would mean Funimation has 80% of all anime streaming, you got like 10% that are on High Dive,
Or
and then
Tubi.
you got 10% that is just spread amongst everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else is producing dubs except for Netflix.
Could take a run at it. They've got money.
And people will say, "Oh, Amazon could too." The problem with Amazon is they're not dubbing anything. Like, they've got these billions of dollars, and they have these like really high quality, high end anime series, and they're slapping subtitles on them only. It's like, and they wonder why their series isn't like their anime service isn't doing that well.
Yeah, like
their anime service isn't doing that well because
it's
the hardcore otaku, like the hardcore anime fans, the anime snobs, want subs only, and they seem to not accept any reason for ever having a dub. I'm sorry. Sometimes, here's a secret. Sometimes the Japanese dub isn't that good, and the English dub is better. Oh my God, it's blasphemy. Sometimes the American dub has a bigger budget and has a wider variety of actors, and sometimes has better sound effects, better sound design. In fact, that happens 99% of the time. They have better dubbing booths. How many video games, if you switch the English to Japanese dub, sound worse in Japanese? Persona. I did a comparison back and forth. The Persona 5 Royal, the English dub has 10 times better quality audio layering, Foley effects, just better stereo spacing, more emotive voice acting. Like, it happens in games more, and people are usually a little less stringent and pissed off when games get a dub. But like, I think the anime community needs to grow up and realize that dubs are good, and if they put proper good dubs on the Amazon service, I'll bet you they would get like 10 times more viewers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you put the money into it, if you put the right people in charge of voice directing and casting, your quality will improve. You can't cheap out on these things.
Yeah, not to mention, here's something that a lot of people don't think about. If a show has a good dub, you're much more likely to sell merch.
Yeah. So this next story, expected, but not unexpected. So according to CNN.com, 20th Century Fox, one of the most recognizable names in entertainment history, is officially no more. Disney announced on Monday it would be rebranding its television studios, 20th Century Fox Television, as 20th Television. The new name cuts both the Century and Fox from the studio name. The move follows Disney's dropping the Fox name from its 20th Century Film brand in January. The company, which closed a $71 billion deal to acquire many of Fox assets last year, renamed the longtime studio as just 20th Century Studios. The well-known logo and title card, which has the words 20th Television stacked above spotlights, will stay the same minus the excluded words. The new logo and graphics will appear on new episodes of 20th Television TV series starting in the fall. Older titles, which already aired before the rebrand, will maintain the former logo and name. Disney cutting Fox from all of its studios makes sense, since it could be considered confusing for consumers. The remaining assets from Fox, such as Fox Entertainment, Fox Sports, and Fox News, are part of the Fox Corporation, which has nothing to do with Disney. Disney will also rebrand its other television studios with new names and graphics. That includes changing ABC Studios and ABC Signature Studios to ABC Signature, and Fox 21 Television Studios will become Touchstone Television. Our new studio names and logos mark a new day for ABC Signature, 20th Television, and Touchstone Television, while honoring their rich histories and creative power of the Walt Disney Company, says Craig Hoons. I guess. I can't pronounce it.
You know what? This might be a good year to do the transition, because with so many shows getting pushed and staggered out because of COVID, they can do a soft launch.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like everything at once has to change. I fully expect them to do a rush job on The Simpsons and do an opening and closing bit where they, like a couch gag where it'll change and they'll be like, what?
Yeah. That'll be funny, actually.
Because it'll be weird seeing that they'll do it either for the beginning or they might wait till the Halloween episode.
Yeah, or maybe it'll be the end of the season.
Yeah, or like, you know, they have like the closing credits too, or the Gracie films. They'll do something involved there. There'll be some sort of meme-worthy nod that they do to the change.
Our last story, you'll be able to speak more about this as you know more about cinema history than I do, but according to Forbes.com, judge decrees studios can own their own theater chains for the first time in 71 years, what lies ahead. I'm just going to read part of this article. In a decision here last April, today a federal judge ruled in favor of the major movie studios, allowing them to own theaters where their films are exhibited for the first time since 1949. This game-changing decision could result in a complete overhaul of not only who owns theater chains in the near and long-term future, but how, when, and where consumers will enjoy feature film content. In yesterday's system, the movie chains stood separate and apart from the studios. Broadly speaking, the way it worked was that the movie chains got an exclusive window, usually 90 days, although that window is still getting smaller and smaller in recent deals and developments with the films they exhibited before the studio then exploited those same titles on various other platforms such as PVOD, SVOD, premium cable, hotels, airlines, broadcast television, etc. Movie chains received approximately 50% of the value of each movie ticket, with the other 50% going back to the studio. The system has been the source of major tension for over a decade, as movie studios routinely spend over $100 million and often much more on their film spectaculars, along with the marketing budgets that often equal the price of the movies themselves. The chains benefit from huge marketing spend, while the studios argue that they must remarket those titles once they leave the theater. It's been an uneasy alliance.
Which, let's be honest, that's a lie.
Yeah.
The movie, the marketing ends the second the movie goes to theaters. There's no need to market it once it's in theaters, because either the movie's a flop or it's successful and people know about it. So that's just Hollywood speak for trying to justify the reason that the costs were so high.
I could argue that you should maintain some kind of a campaign while it's in theaters, but not as aggressive. Like,
no, they're saying that once it leaves theaters, before it hits video, they have to do an equal $100 million campaign. No, you don't. Like, in my opinion, especially coming from the kind of radio side of this, you will hear advertisements for movies coming to home video, and I hear a lot of this on States radio, not so much up here in Canada. I guess they just don't have the same kind of ad spend, but they'll be like, hey, now coming to Blu-ray, DVD, I don't know, here's fucking Deep Blue Sea, or here's... You know what, though? They never kept up with the times. No. They put ads in front of TV. There's occasionally banners on websites. You know where they really should have been spending their money instead of $100 million on this radio and television campaign for videos that are coming on VOD or home video? They should spend $10 million and spread it amongst the top, 5,000 YouTubers that do daily news shows or weekly news shows.
There is an ad budget there?
No, but instead of popping them in, because people pay for YouTube Premium, I haven't seen ads in several years, and I don't have an ad block or anything. I just pay for YouTube Premium, and I don't have ads. They should be paying to have them read on the air, just like you used to do on radio. But you'll see your famous YouTubers. They'll come out and they'll be like, "This show is brought to you by blah 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 and blah 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 blah." You know what? They should be doing that and having them pay for space in their videos to have a little trailer show in the video that's unskippable. Because then you got somebody, that's got 10 million subscribers, and they regularly have 2 million viewers a day. Okay. Well, that's got to be worth more to you than television, where you might get 10,000 people watching and you can't tell because you're basing your ratings on an old system from the 1950s that nobody even believes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me why they didn't try to capture the live audio podcast or live video podcast market, because they're so backwards and archaic. It's that brings it off into a whole different tangent. That's what I'm saying. But their marketing budgets have gone crazy. You were saying that I know a little more about the history. Back in the day, they used to own their own theater chains. They all did. And then it came down to trying to boil it down to something simplistic here, antitrust, consumer protection laws. So the idea was a studio could have a monopoly on a town and then essentially make it so that no other movie could play in their theaters. So what they didn't want to have happen is, let's say you have Toronto, right? Let's say you got, 100 movie theaters, which is way more than they have. But let's say you had 100 movie theaters. Well, what they didn't want was for Warner Brothers to own 100 movie theaters, basically the entire town, and then say, Universal can't show pictures in our theaters. So that's what they were trying to stop back in the day. as well as some insider trading, that sort of crap. There's protections to protect against that now, so that's not so much an issue. What this could mean is it could bail out AMC, which has gone bankrupt. In Canada, the deal fell through with the UK company, and now they're being sued to buy Cineplex. Remember that was supposed to come through? Well, they said, because of COVID, we don't want to buy you. And they're like, well, you signed the papers. You already bought us. And they're like, well, we're not going to pay. So now it's gone to the Supreme Court in Canada and the UK because they can't give up on the deal in good faith. So they're trying to get out of it. They won't get out of it. Or the argument is, well, then you got to pay us all the money you owe us. You got to pay off all of our debt and give us a certain penalty. And they're like, no. And they're like, well, you have to. You bought us. So this could save that, where if, not saying that every theater in the States would turn into, like, AMC wouldn't become like the Warner Brothers Theater. It might be a case of a consortium of these movie companies by individual, like AMC is owned by 3 of the studios, but they still have to show every other film equally because that's the law. Mm-hmm. But what it would mean is when they do show their own films, or let's say Warner does buy one of the smaller chains, or they have to break it up into smaller chains, when they show their movies, they won't have to charge you $15 for a ticket. And people that are cynical will say, well, they might still do that. No, they're afraid of losing people going to theaters altogether because theaters have reopened and barely anybody's going. And it's like their worst nightmare right now. The theaters reopened here, and for the first week, they were like $5 a ticket, $2 on Tuesday. Now they're back up to full price, and they're getting like 2 people per screening. There's like nobody going. And that's Canada, where we're not having this same kind of epidemic they're having in the States. So they're in a situation where they could lose everything if they don't do it right. Well, they could go, okay, well, just to save face for the first several months, or maybe even a couple of years, we're going to lower our ticket prices to $5 a piece, because now they get all the money from the ticket prices. They get to put free advertising. They don't have to pay to have their adverts put into the theaters. You want a billboard up? It costs as much as it costs to print the paper. You want to, and they also then would get all the profits from the concessions, which they get none of. So it would mean they could lower the concession cost, they could lower the ticket cost, they could, add some special things. They could make money off of the little arcades they've gotten there or whatever.
Merch.
Off of the merch. They could get exclusive merch. They could do exclusive special things. They could, get the parties going in there, corporate things. They could also do the subscription services where you pay to get the price of the price of 3 tickets. Let's just see unlimited movies, but on matinees or whatever. They could do all those sorts of things, and at charging half of what they're currently charging in these theaters, and make twice as much profit as they're currently making. So they could do that to pull people in, and you would basically lose no jobs, because you just retain the people that are there. In a fair world, which isn't happening. In a fair world, they retain their jobs at whatever pay or get to renegotiate. The only people that would lose their jobs are the board of directors of these big corporations that already ran the businesses into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a win-win for everybody, as long as there are some restrictions in place to not allow a monopoly situation, or not allow, or to have some consumer protection, so that, let's say DreamWorks isn't shunned out. Let's say DreamWorks has their new, big
Trolls
fun
movie or something.
Yeah, fun, silly movie come out, and the Disney-owned theater says, "Oh no, we're not showing any DreamWorks movie because this is the Disney theater." As long as they don't do that kind of bullshit, or relegate it to being on the smallest screen only 1 time per day, or charge more for a movie that's not from the studio that they own. Like, hey, at the Disney theater, it is $5 a ticket. Oh, you want to see the Warner Brothers movie? $12. As long as they don't do that kind of bullshit, it can be really beneficial, and might be the only way of saving them and, insulating themselves from bankruptcy.
Well, hopefully it works out good for the consumer, though I doubt it. We'll wait and see what happens. So anyway, that's all we got for you this week. It's been an up and down news cycle, as it most often is, because, hey, it's the dumpster fire that never ends. It's 2020. However, to bring you some good news, hopefully, we're going to take a listen to Alex's reviews coming to us from Mill Creek Home Entertainment.
Just a quick one here with 3 recent releases from Mill Creek. We have the British Invasion, which is a 5 documentary collection on The Who, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, one on more focused on John Lennon himself, and Brian Epstein, the original manager of the Beatles. And it's a pretty good collection. Some of these have been released individually from them before. They're retailing for $20. You're probably going to find it, honestly, in a bin at like Walmart. They always have a bin of the cheaper releases. I ended up picking this up, and I knew a lot of the stories in there, but I gave it to my parents for them to check out as well. And they had a good time with it. They said it was a good deal for all the movies that were on there and the documentaries. Pretty well put together. It does come with a digital copy that you can redeem on their Movie Spree website, which is pretty cool. If you're a fan of the 60s pop rock music, the beginning of the modern age of radio, the British Invasion documentary collection is pretty good. As for the other collection that's here that's similar is The Becoming Evil. It is a documentary series on the Mafia. They had released it in the past on Blu-ray, I believe, and this is a more bargain DVD release of it. Pretty good collection. It's like those true crime documentary series on different important people in the Mafia history. Also comes with a digital copy. Pretty sweet there. Good, again, quick weekend watching when you're watching and it's like a stormy day or something. Nothing too amazing to write home about on it. They're just good collections, both the British Invasion and the Becoming Evil one. If you can find them, they have an MSRP of $19.99 a piece. To be honest, they're probably worth, if you're $10 to $15, and that's likely what you're going to find them for when you find them in stores. Worth picking up there. Also in this roundup here, we've got the Neo Ultra Q, which is another release in the long line that they've been releasing of the Ultraman series. Now this is actually based on the original Ultra Q from back in the day, and it's a 12-episode series that sort of retells the story in a more modern day. It's a remake of the classic show. It's kind of cool to see that because you can see where the influences are in the costume design, but it has modern filming techniques, so it's a little more muted. It's this weird hybrid of serious and not serious. Pretty good set overall. If you're already collecting the Ultraman franchise, it's worth picking up. $25 MSRP for the Blu-ray. It does include digital copies as well, so you can redeem on Movie Spree. It is, in my mind, not the best Ultraman series, but it's a good compliment to it, and especially if you're a fan of the original Ultra Q, the fact that you can watch the remake or the remaster sort of reimagining of the series. It is tightly and concise, and it's 12 episodes, so it's not like it's all drawn out. Pretty cool. Runs at just under 300 minutes, so it's something you can binge watch fairly easily. It has been remastered and has brand new translation, subtitles. Very easy to read, easy to follow, entertaining series. Comes on 2 discs. Definitely worth picking up. And that's going to do it for the roundup of the additional Mill Creek releases for this past month. Pretty soon you'll have a review of the Eureka complete TV series. That was going to be included here, but that is a lot longer to watch. We got to make sure we watch every episode and catch up, and that'll be probably on next week's show.
What makes you qualified to be a reporter? I'm willing to violate anyone's privacy for my personal gain and then claim with a straight face that the public has a right to know.
By the hand of Zeus, what manner of deviltry is this?
I love fake alien poop day.
All right, folks, it's time to take a deep dive into the strange and unusual things that just happened on this plane of existence. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex the producer. Well, let's start things off in jolly old England. And according to Brian Blessed, Flash Gordon is the Queen's favorite film. The star of the camp sci-fi classic claimed the monarch told him she watches it with her grandchildren every Christmas and asked the actor to recite dialogue. Brian Bless, who has claimed the Queen revealed to him that her favorite film is Flash Gordon, the 1980 sci-fi in which he plays Prince Boltan. Speaking at the film's 40th anniversary to Edith Bowman on Yahoo Movies, the actor said, "Whenever he goes, the people demand he recite his character's catchphrase. Everywhere I go, they all want me to say, 'Gordon's alive,'" said Bless. "The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, horses and queens and prime ministers, they all want me to say, 'Gordon's alive.' It's their favorite film." He continued, "The Queen, it's her favorite film. She watches it with her grandchildren every Christmas." The actor then assumed the Queen's accent, quoting her as saying, "You know, we watch Flash Gordon all the time, me and the grandchildren, and if you don't mind, I've got the grandchildren here, would you mind saying Gordon's alive?" It is unclear when the Queen made the reported disclosure, but she did appoint Blessed an OBE for services to arts and charity in 2016. Little is known of her movie taste, but it has been claimed she is an avid viewer of small screen shows such as Pointless, The Bill, Downton Abbey, and The Crown. She appeared alongside Daniel Craig's James Bond in a short film played as part of the opening ceremony for the London 2012 Olympics. I actually have never seen Flash Gordon, even though I was going through
Flash.
Savior of the universe.
I only ever saw it once, and that was a couple years ago at my local theater when they did a rerun of it. The theater was jam-packed. I've never seen people that lit except for Wrath of Khan.
It turns out I own Flash Gordon. I was going through my old DVDs the other day. I'm getting ready to upgrade a lot of media, and I'm seeing what I don't have cases for, and I actually came across the collector's edition of Flash Gordon. Maybe I should watch that before I transition up.
It's fun. It's stupid, but it's fun.
I will say this: one of my favorite things done by the Mega Man inspired rock opera, the Proto Men, they do a cover of the Flash Gordon theme song. And it sounds fucking astounding. Like, I love that cover. And that's kind of what got me interested. They've got, I think it's Panther, and he's talking to Kilroy, and he's like, "I'm bored. What plaything have you brought for me?" "Well, there's a system called Earth." And they go on this little skit, and then that, and the Proto Men sound very epic and powerful. It's fucking awesome. So yeah, that's kind of exciting. The Queen likes Flash Gordon. Now to bring the news back from across the pond to a little bit of local news. This one comes courtesy of Blog TO. Toronto residents question safety of Cherry Beach following chainsaw attack.
Indeed. 2
blood-covered, chainsaw-wielding men emerged from the bushes of the popular park in Toronto on Sunday morning, where witnesses say they screamed at, followed, and even lunged towards strangers while revving their deadly tools. It's not the kind of thing you see very often in a large Canadian city, or anywhere outside of a horror movie for that matter. And yet, Toronto police confirmed that 2 people were arrested and 2 others injured yesterday when a large group of people were in a physical altercation involving at least 1 chainsaw nearing Toronto's Cherry Beach. Police have yet to release the suspects' names, charges, or even the nature and extent of any injuries, but Toronto Police Chief Constable Carolyn Duquette did say on Sunday that the chainsaws were not used as weapons. An investigation into the fight is ongoing, which means that few other details are available from police. Curious locals are thus relying on people who were at or around Cherry Beach around 10 a.m. on Sunday morning for the scoop. First-hand accounts of what happened have been spreading like wildfire on social media over the past 24 hours. This is from last week, painting scary pictures in the heads of many. One video posted late Sunday night to Facebook by David Sullivan gave interested parties their first good glimpse of the chainsaw-wielding men in action. In the clip, 2 shirtless men are seen approaching a local windsurfing club at the eastern end of Cherry Beach. The bloodied men yell things as they approach people outside the windsurfing club, their chainsaws buzzing around the entire time. One man can be heard yelling, "Who hit me?" The video isn't timestamped, but witnesses say police were fast to arrive after they called 911, meaning the standoff couldn't have lasted very long. Despite the fast and very heavy police response, the police frequent the beautiful beach and recreational trails, expressing concerns over how unsafe the area has become lately. I post here because this is perhaps the beach that you can go to with your family, dog, and friends to enjoy. In recent months, there's been several assaults because of the city of Toronto has seemed to have ignored by law enforcement and policing in this area, wrote a member of the Leslieville neighborhood Facebook group. They're starting to understand more people are using the area and conflict is happening. I personally visit Cherry Beach often and I'm concerned about the situation. I'm going to send emails to the mayor's office and Councillor Fletcher with my thoughts. I was there on Saturday and watched a man OD from a tent encampment on the beach. Eventually, the paramedics showed up to take him to the hospital. I'm not sure the best way to keep this from happening. It was tragic, and there were families there who witnessed it. Some are blaming the incident on the growing tent encampments, which not exist near Cherry Beach, but all over the city of Toronto, and a global pandemic and the homelessness crisis. Others are calling out for the late-night rave-style parties. Cherry Beach is known for having events which have been taking place peacefully for more than a decade without incident. Others are still linking the wild chainsaw situation to a more recent large gatherings in the area, one of which made headlines in June thanks to photos of large crowds and others in pandemic restriction violation. It's impossible to know what motivated these men to bring chainsaws to Cherry Beach without more information. Hopefully police can provide further updates in the upcoming days to put some minds at ease. Yikes. I do not wish an Evil Dead Ash fight to happen in my neighborhood.
Funny imagery, but no.
Scary. Yeah, no. And hopefully this isn't a homelessness crisis. This isn't a mental health thing. Maybe these are just bad people doing bad things. And even if it was a prank, that's not funny, bro.
Yeah.
Because somebody could get hurt. But that's just so weird because like the picture from Blog TO shows these guys walking out of the bushes at Cherry Beach and they're carrying like leather-face chainsaws and one of them is all covered in something. So just holy shit.
Kind of a little terrifying.
Did you have chainsaw-wielding bush maniacs on your bingo card? Bet you didn't. So in other fun news, I think this is kind of neat. So according to RFI, 77 million year old fossil in Canada has actually 77 million year old fossil in Canada reveals dinosaurs got cancer too. Dinosaurs loom in the imagination as forces of nature, but a new study that identifies the first known case of cancer shows these creatures also suffered from the disease. A badly malformed Centrosaurus leg bone unearthed in Alberta, Canada, Badlands in 1989 had originally been thought by paleontologists to be a healed fracture. But a fresh examination of the growth under a microscope and using a technique also employed in human cancer care determined that it was actually a malignant tumor. The cancer discovery makes dinosaurs more real, says the study co-author Mark Crowther. We often think of them as mythical creatures, robust and stomping around, but the diagnosis shows they suffered from diseases just like people. The findings were first published in the August issue of the Lancet Oncology. Most cancers occur in soft tissues, which are not well preserved in fossil records, noted Crowther, a dinosaur enthusiast and chair of the McMaster University's medical facility in Canada. Oddly enough, under a microscope, it looks a lot like human osteochoma, I think it's pronounced, he said. It's fascinating that this cancer existed tens of millions of years ago and still exists today. Osteochoma is an aggressive bone cancer that still afflicts about 3 out of 1 million people each year. In this horned herbivore that lived 76 to 77 million years ago, the cancer had metastasized and likely hobbled the giant lizard, but neither the late-stage cancer nor a predator looking to make a meal out of the slow and weak prey is believed to have killed it. Because its bones were discovered with more than 100 others from the same herd, researchers said it's more than likely they all died in a sudden disaster such as a flood, and that prior to this catastrophe, the herd protected the lame dinosaur, extending its life. Lead researchers Crowther and David Evans, curator of the vertebrate paleontology at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, and their team sifted through hundreds of samples of abnormal bones at the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, Alberta, to find the bone with the tumor, which is about the size of an apple. The team had also used high-resolution computerized tomography, CT scans, a multidisciplinary diagnostic technique used in human cancer care. C'est la vie. Crowther said dinosaurs would probably have been at higher risk for osteochondroma or whatever, which affects use with fast-growing bones because they grew very quickly and very big. In terms of the biology of cancer, he said, you often hear about environmental, dietary, and other causes of cancer. Finding a case from more than 75 million years ago, you realize it's just part of life. You have an animal that surely wasn't smoking, a leading cause of cancer in humans, and so it shows that cancer is not a recent invention and that it is not exclusively linked to our environment. That's fascinating.
I mean, it's kind of neat, but at the same time, it's like, could you imagine dinosaur cancer?
I'd be wondering what other types of diseases were unique to dinosaurs. It's so weird to think about.
We have mad cow. Like, there would have been something probably similar to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I think of old diseases from that far long ago, you think more of like single cell amoebas and like weird, like, because things have evolved so much since then. And even our antibodies, like back then, you could die very easily from like a single cell organism or something very simple. Whereas over all these generations of multi-years of and us developing immune systems, like, we're so used now to having good bacteria that can battle back bad bacteria. Back then, you just didn't have that. The whole gut flora sort of thing. You know how there's like good bacteria in your belly that helps digest things.
Yep.
Like, early man would just poop themselves to death if they ate something bad. Whereas now we've got stuff in our bellies that, are multi-generational, and, we just have an immune system and we have a symbiotic relationship with a lot of the bacteria. That's why, like, it's simple science. Like, how babies have a certain colored poop, and then as soon as they start eating meat, the poop changes, and no matter what, it never goes back to that other color.
Yeah, it's just how their dietary restrictions change.
Once, like, even if you never ever, like, if you raised a baby that didn't eat any meat at all and only ate vegetables forever, like, we're talking pure vegan their entire life, the adult's poop would look like baby poop. But the second that you have beef or you have red meat or any other type of meat solid, there's bacteria in there that settles in your tummy and becomes a symbiotic relationship that helps you digest food. So, interesting stuff that, it's kind of stuff we learned from Bill Nye. But, like, you can imagine, millions of years ago, how much more simplistic the bacteria was. I almost feel like if we were to go back in time, like, not only would we survive every single thing that existed back then, because we have much more complex immune systems now, we might be the plague that kills everything.
Yeah, because you never know.
Like how there's like that whole the sound of thunder, stepping on a butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Like, and they always talk about stepping on a butterfly. I don't think it would be that. I think it would be more like in The Simpsons, where you went back in time and you sneezed and every animal died, because you've got millions of years of evolutionary bacteria in your body that they don't have.
Yeah. So, interesting to think about. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of food for thought. This next story, I think, is kind of a feel-good one, coming from Mashable.com. Remember Blockbuster, the new release aisle, the strange sweet musk of candy and carpet and cardboard, the impossibility of choosing just one movie? Well,
the Japanimation section.
Yes. Well, now with a little luck, you may be able to experience that nostalgia-filled rush overnight. The last Blockbuster in existence is now an Airbnb and is available for rent.
Oh, that's cool.
Problem is, you have to be located in Deschutes County, where the last ever Blockbuster is located in Bend, Oregon. Sandy Harding, the store's manager, is offering 3 one-night reservations in September as a way to thank her local community. In appreciation for all the local community has done recently to support the last of its kind during these uncertain times, this end-of-summer sleepover will offer movie lovers in Deschutes County the chance for a 90s-themed stay to relive the bygone Friday night tradition just as we remember it, read a press release. The Deschutes County residents can reserve a stay starting August 17th, so today, I think, as of when we're recording the show, for just $4 on September 18th, 19th, and 20th, and that's a penny more than a movie rental. Guests will have the entire place to themselves. It will be cleaned according to COVID-19 standards, and the candy is up for grabs. Just look at that sweet setup, and it actually is pretty impressive. You can find the listing here. Seriously, if you were alive in the 90s, 2000s, read this description and feel a little something. Whether you want to stay up until sunrise or pass it out on the couch, we've created the perfect space complete with a pull-out couch, beanbags, and pillows for you to cozy up with new releases from the 90s, it reads.
Now, question: does it include like a 32-inch CRT?
It includes a pretty big TV, actually.
It might be one of the display TVs.
No, it's a fairly new one, from what I can tell.
That's not lame. Not worth it. It has to be a tube TV. You can't have any speakers plugged into it, and because it's the 90s, you got to make sure that it only plugs in through coaxial, no RCA, because only rich people had RCA plugs.
Ooh. So, according to the Airbnb listing, crack open a 2-liter of Pepsi before locking into a video game, charting your future in a game of MASH, or watching a movie after movie. But be wary of reciting Bloody Mary in the staff bathroom off the break room, as you may just summon the ghost that is rumored to haunt the store. The Blockbuster in Bend became the last of its kind after outposts in Alaska and Australia shut down. It has remained open during the pandemic, albeit with lots of extra disinfecting and curbside pickup. People apparently appreciate the effort. I had a customer come in and she said, "I'm so grateful that you reopened because I couldn't flip through Netflix one more time," Harding told Vice in May. Now, it's cool.
There's something visceral about just touching your media when you rent it. Also, Netflix, I wonder if there's a term for it, but it really started with Netflix, the idea of you have too much to select and it's so cheap that you end up never appreciating what's there. Back in the day when you physically picked out a movie and you paid for it, you better friggin' watch it because you paid for it. At the same time, if this was in Canada, I feel that we wouldn't have the same nostalgia for Blockbuster, even though they were everywhere, or Rogers Video, because they were always seen as Blockbuster Light. But what if it was a Jumbo Video? Because they had a popcorn machine in there.
Do you remember when Blockbuster could have bought Netflix and passed?
Do you remember when Rogers did buy Netflix in Canada? They bought the mail service.
And it became zip.ca or whatever?
Originally, it was Rogers On Demand.
I remember that.
Because it was Netflix powered by Rogers. Then it became Rogers On Demand. And then they sold it to Zip. And there was some rare shit in there.
Yes, I saw most of my trauma movies through Zip.
I got David Cronenberg's Shivers, his first movie that now it has a UK Blu-ray release. It's region free, I believe. But the DVD was so out of print, it was like $400 to buy a copy. And I rented it. They had no case and just kept it and paid them the $20. That was the replacement fee. Because there was no copies on the net for streaming. There wasn't even like in the underground tape trading or pirating scene, there wasn't even a copy there. The only way I could watch it, like without paying $400 or $500 on aftermarket, was to rent it from them and keep it. So I did, and I think that zip.ca eventually went bankrupt and they sold the tech to gameaccess.ca, and I think they're still running.
I think they are too, and they were a great early sponsor of TWIG in the early days. So
I had them as service around that time and they were good, and then I came back to them a couple of years after they were no longer a sponsor of you guys. And they were crap.
Yes, service changed considerably.
Horrible customer service. You paid all this additional stuff to get like the thing where they would send you a movie before you even, or a game before you even sent it back. And there were multiple times where they said they sent it, never received it, and they tried to charge me for something I didn't receive. And then only to find out that when you check the tracking number, they sent it to Quebec when I'm not in Quebec.
Yeah, clearly.
So a couple things, they even tried to like put me into collections for something I never received or even asked for, until I had to send a threatening letter, which apparently a lot of people had to do. And they're still there now. They seem to sell used stuff. It looks like they bought up a lot of the. Remember when Redbox was here?
Yep.
I think they bought up a lot of their stuff and they're reselling it.
So my next story,
but yes, it was the big decline.
Yes.
But it was interesting, like that service. How I didn't think it would last in Canada because of how spread out we are, but it lasted a fair amount of time because of that big Rogers push behind it.
Mm-hmm. So our next story is a little depressing, kind of fucked up, as most things are on this segment of the show. But this one comes courtesy of necn.com. It's a local NBC affiliate in Pennsylvania. Man and woman, I think it's in Pennsylvania anyway, but either way, a man and woman punch a Sesame Street worker who reminded them to wear their mask, police say. The teen Sesame Street Place worker suffered jaw and teeth injuries. He was taken to St. Mary's Medical Center in Middletown on Sunday and underwent surgery on Monday. A man and a woman punched a 17-year-old Sesame Place employee in the face after the teen reminded them to wear masks, police said. The incident occurred Sunday at the Sesame Place theme park in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Middletown Township Police said a teen employee told the unnamed man and woman that they were required to wear masks while in the park due to COVID-19. Later that day, around 5 p.m., the same duo confronted the teen worker at the Captain Cookie's High Sea Adventure ride, confronted them, causing him to back up and punched him in the face. The police said the teen fell to the ground. The man and woman then fled the scene as the park security chased after them. Investigators said they were last seen driving away in a vehicle registered in New York. The teen suffered a jaw injury and damaged teeth. He was later taken to St. Mary's Medical Center in Middletown on Sunday and underwent surgery on Monday. Police have not released a detailed description of the suspects, but said they both appeared to be between the ages of 20 and 30. They had initially said...
They're going to do time over this.
Yeah.
They're not just going to get sued. They're going to do time because that means they're fleeing between state lines.
It's so dumb. However, though, they initially said only the man attacked the teen. Investigators used surveillance video, park reservation and transaction records, and vehicle registration to get preliminary identification for the duo. Police detectives will work with New York authorities to officially identify the suspects. Once they are identified, authorities will then coordinate to have the suspects arrested and extradited to Bucks County, Pennsylvania, to face charges. Fuck those people. Like, literally, I mean, it's COVID, you really shouldn't be going to a theme park, but socially distance, you're wearing a mask. I guess you're doing something.
Sesame Street thing, right? Like,
who the fuck kicks the shit out of Elmo?
Not to mention, well, I mean, I got a few things to say about Elmo. That dirty. No, I'm kidding. But at the same time, like, what did you expect was going to happen? Like, there's something in the States more like it happens here. Like, there were people.
Anti-maskers, right?
Yeah, and there's still them here. But the ones here, without trying to generalize everybody, when we've seen them walk around and when they organize the events and the general public was disturbed by the fact that they were even doing demonstrations, but they're allowed to, they're not, for the most part, from what I can see, mentally well. There are a lot of conspiracy theorists that were doing it. People that like to scream just because they can. There wasn't a whole lot of people that had a rational thought behind it. Whereas when you're seeing in the States, there's a large contingent that are like, literally, their attitude is, fuck you, my rights or my perceived rights supersede everyone's safety.
Yeah, I really don't get that mentality.
And these are people that would normally be rational adults, but there's something about this that triggers them to the point of being irrational. And it's like, I deserve to let you die is sort of the attitude. And they'll try to argue otherwise, but it really is a deep-seated problem that seems to only pop up in America. Everywhere else that's had these protests, it's usually been as what did our Premier Ford call them?
Bunch of yahoos.
Yeah. And it was like the public perception, the vast majority here view that as outliers and crazy people. In the States, it's a pretty sizable chunk. It's not just like the outliers. So it is kind of nutsoid, especially if they're from New York where they were hit so bad. You'd think they would have been more understanding.
Yeah, but I guess not. So...
Yes. So again, I'm not trying to label everybody in one, put them all in one basket. It's just, we are outsiders from another country, and this is the perception that you're giving us.
Yeah, please stop beating up theme park people.
Yes, they're only trying to help you. They weren't trying to do anything. They weren't trying to oppress you. They were trying to make it safe for everybody. That's all.
Big Bird is not going to tread on your rights.
If you're really upset about it, raising your voice is one thing, and then choosing to leave is would be a nice thing to do, whatever. But physical assault for any reason is bad.
Well, the fact that they waited till later in the day,
which means it's premeditated. They walked around and went, "I'm gonna get this motherfucker," and it's some kid who's just not only doing his job, but obviously trying to be safe for everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a kid who's doing a job that is, it's a hot, stuffy job to have, and they're just trying to be safe for all the kids.
Yeah, so there's that. This story, kind of exciting, coming to us from CBC.ca, or the Canadian Broadcast Corporation. Evidently, dwarf planet Ceres is an ocean world, NASA finds. Data from the Dawn spacecraft shows a large reservoir of salty water under the surface. Ceres, the largest object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, is an ocean world with a big reservoir of salty water under its frigid surface, scientists said in their findings that raise interest in this dwarf planet as a possible outpost for life. Research published on Monday based on data obtained by NASA's Dawn spacecraft, which flew as close as 35 kilometers from the surface in 2018, provides a new understanding of Ceres, including evidence indicating that it remains geologically active with cryovolcanism, volcanoes oozing icy material. The findings confirm the presence of a subsurface reservoir of brine, salt-enriched water, remnants of a vast subsurface ocean that has been gradually freezing. This elevates Ceres to an ocean world status, noting that this category does not require the ocean to be global, said planetary scientist and Dawn principal investigator Carol Raymond. In the case of Ceres, we know this liquid reservoir is regional scale, but we cannot tell for sure that it is global. However, what matters most is that there is liquid on a large scale. Ceres has a diameter of 950 kilometers. The scientists found on the 92-kilometer wide Octator crater formed by an impact about 22 million years ago in Ceres' northern hemisphere. It has two bright areas, salt and crust left by liquid that percolated up from the surface and evaporated. The liquid, they concluded, originated in a brine reservoir hundreds of kilometers wide, lurking about 40 kilometers below the surface, with the impact creating fractures, allowing the salty water to escape. The research was published in the journals Nature Astronomy, Nature Geoscience, and Nature Communications. Other solar system bodies beyond Earth where subsurface oceans are known to appear to exist include Jupiter's moon Europa, Saturn's moon Enceladus, Neptune's moon Triton, and the dwarf planet Pluto. Water is considered to be a key ingredient for life. Scientists want to assess whether Ceres was ever habitable by microbial life. There is a major interest at this stage, said planetary scientist Julie Castillo of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, in quantifying the habitability of potential of the deep brine reservoir, especially considering it is cold and quite rich in salts. Very cool.
All I'm going to say is neat.
I think the thing is, because we do talk about a lot of space stuff on this show, because I do find it infinitely interesting, is I honestly think in the next 3 years, and that I'm going to put a firm number on it, you're going to get a press conference. It's not going to be that ET is real, but you're going to get a press conference from NASA and probably a couple other space agencies, probably the European Space Agency or whoever. And they're going to say there is life in the universe, and it's going to be microbial.
It'll be like amoebas, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like they're going to say, is it possible for more complex life? And they're going to say, mathematically, probably. Is it going to be as complex as inventing a species capable of inventing interstellar space travel? We don't know.
I doubt that within our limitations of what we can see, that we'll see anything beyond microscopic levels.
Yeah, like considering where we are in the galactic neighborhood, we're pretty far out in the burbs, so to speak. We're pretty far out from the galactic center. Like the closest star, I think, is like 4.2 light years away. I think there's a super Earth there, but does it mean it's habitable? I don't know. Maybe. Depends on gravity, depends on its distance to its star.
If it was habitable, we would have found out by now.
Well, even if it is habitable, we don't know what the environments are like. I mean, if you and I are big kind of Mass Effect players, for example, there's a planet Mass Effect. Sure, it's got temperate weather, it's got oceans on it, but you don't know whether the atmosphere is breathable.
Or if it has giant graboid slug things.
Yeah, we just simply don't know. So I think we're going to get some kind of an announcement at some point saying something is out there, as I said on the show previously.
If not a thing of we found life, it may be we found someplace we can breathe on.
Yeah, like there's going to be some extra planetary exploration this decade. It is going to happen. Are we going to put a man on Mars? I would like to believe so, and I sure as fuck hope it's not Elon Musk. But
we would be much more likely to put a permanent moon base than anything else.
I think Mars is easier because it's terrestrial and you're not getting as much harsh radiation.
What I'm saying is on the moon, you may want something as a refueling station or as a waypoint.
Yeah, it's easier for them to set up there or at one of the moon's the Lagrange points. So Gundam actually kind of gives you an idea on how this might work. But I digress. So anyway, cool story. This story comes from Alex because I sure as fuck didn't post this.
I found one weird one for you because I wanted to make it even stories.
Oh boy. So this one comes courtesy of the New York Post. Man installs life-size wax model of dead wife for housewarming. Even in death could not part them. 3 years ago, Indian businessman, and I can't pronounce this guy's name, Srinivas Gupta's wife, Mad Havari, I think, or Mad Havi, I don't know. She was killed in a car wreck. The devoted husband refused to let her image die. Gupta, 57, was a hyper-realistic wax figure cast. Had a hyper-realistic wax figure cast in her likeness. The sweet but eerie result is strikingly lifelike, if unmoving and stuck forever, smiling in the distance. In addition to recreating his deceased wife's physical image, Gupta also recently had his new home built in India with her in mind. Before commissioning the bungalow in the Koppal district of the state of Karnataka, I think, Gupta reportedly first approached 25 architects, commissioning one to construct the new house only when he was assured they'd do it right. Once complete, Gupta held a housewarming where he introduced his wife's new life-size but lifeless statue to his guests. The dead woman's strangely resemblance to a doll equivalent was dressed in a pink saree and gold accessories and positioned on the living room couch. She left many attendees speechless. Also, according to footage shot at the August 8th gathering, Mad Havar, or Havari, I can't pronounce it, was reportedly killed while on a trip with her daughters in, again, I can't pronounce this, where their vehicle's driver was rear-ended by a speeding truck. Their daughters only sustained minor injury while the woman was reportedly killed. This is weird. I'm actually just going to...
It's very macabre.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to look at the video. Oh my God, that is weird. And I've been the Madame Tussauds. This is really good.
Yeah.
Like this is not cheap. Like you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars for this.
Well, that's what, it's always fun when I try to find a story where Michael will have trouble reading it.
Yeah, pick any foreign name.
Well, especially if there's lots of it. But beyond that, when I was reading, I was like, okay, so it's just a creepy dude. And I went, whoa, that's creepy. It's what's that called? Uncanny Valley-ish.
Like, I will admit, if I ever lost Blair, I would be completely beside myself and definitely lost. Would I ever go so far as to creating a lifelike image of her? No. Probably the farthest I'd go is I'd keep lots of pictures. I'd have her voicemail saved. I'd find a way to preserve her as best I could.
You may get a really nice painting done.
Yeah, like something to say that's my Blair Bear. But I'm not going to go to Madame Tussauds' personal wax sculptor and say, you know what I need? I need a wax figure. And you know what I want to be the skeleton inside in case it ever melts? A T800 endoskeleton. So let's make it cool and creepy.
It could have been worse. It could have been her actual skull.
Just wow. But that's some dedication. That's some love, even if it is a little strange.
I put it there because I thought it was very 1950s like Vincent Price House of Waxy creepy.
I've seen like horror movies based around this premise. In fact, I know there's like a Tales from the Crypt where he doesn't use wax figures, but he builds like taxidermies of people, and he taxidermies like his neighbor or something. It's weird. I know
The
George
crazy thing
Wentz
is
in the
this man
episode.
thought this was going to be completely okay to do this.
Yeah, and I'd like to know what the woman's family thinks, but he did it, in my opinion, with respect, but maybe not forethought. You know what I mean? Like
he's clearly distraught, and he was like, this. He was thinking he's doing something nice.
Yeah, like he wants to honor her memory, and there's other ways you can do that. That money that he spent on the wax figure, like you said, could have been spent on a painting. It could have been spent making her a really nice grave site. Or donating the money in her name to charity to something that she really cared about, or help the children in this case.
Like my grandmother, when my grandfather died, had a picture done of him, and he was cremated. And for a long time, like there was, a part of the living room where they built like not like a shrine, but it was a spot for him. And I'm like, okay, that I understand. You were together for like 50 years. If he had done something like that, like even if he had revealed, like, I've made a full size portrait and it's going to hang in this room, people be like, that's kind of weird, but you'd understand it. It's like, no, I got a wax sculpture done, and she's in the middle of the room. Everybody sit around her
on the couch, not a chair, but a couch.
Yes, no. I'd be like, I don't want to visit you ever again.
So strange. I'm glad your love endures, but it's not a love that I understand.
Definitely weird news.
Definitely weird news. Going back to the BBC.com, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is being rebooted as a gritty drama. In West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground where he was spent most of his days, now the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is played by Will Smith, and the beloved 90s sitcom is coming back in a reboot. But this time, the story of the streetwise teen who moves in with his upper-class uncle and aunt will not be a comedy, according to U.S. reports. The new version will be based on a viral YouTube trailer that reimagined the series as a hard-hitting drama. Smith is working on the series with Morgan Cooper, who created the alternate trailer last year. At the time, the actor praised the trailer as a brilliant idea of a dramatic version of the Fresh Prince for the next generation. Smith's company, Westbrook Studios, will make it with Universal TV, while Netflix, HBO Max, and Peacock are among the platforms bidding to stream it, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Original creators Andy and Susan Borowitz will serve as executive producers, as Will Smith and the original executive producer Quincy Jones and Benny Medina. I saw this trailer when I posted the story a couple days ago. I really like it. I think if it's done as a limited series, I wouldn't continue this as a multi-season drama. But if you did first season when Will first arrives from Philly to Bel-Air, he has his confrontations with Carlton, who's grown up as this rich, spoiled brat who doesn't know what it's like out in the real world. Will trying to adjust to be given a second chance away from this life of crime.
Yeah. Fast forward a little bit and do the episode where the father comes back and doesn't want him.
Yep.
That was already dramatic enough, but do that. And then end it with him starting his rap career.
Yeah, or maybe him going off to school, stuff like that. I mean, and make the secondary characters breathe a little bit. I mean, obviously they showed Hillary, Phil, and what was the aunt's name? Shit, I can't remember. Vivian, yeah. So their kid, show them, show Ashley, show Will being kind of the bigger brother to Ashley.
And there was DJ Jazzy Jeff.
And I like how they did Jazz. He wasn't a joke. He was just a musician. He's like, what's your name? Holds up the record, Jazz. I like that. I mean,
I wasn't a big fan, but I realized it was a fan trailer. I have an issue with it. If they're trying to go for the like Straight Outta Compton style, it's going to be seen as a joke, a parody of itself, only because he wasn't that street, in quotes. A lot of it, if it's done as a nice, good drama, it can be done well. And like you said, as a miniseries, it would work well as a gritty drama. It would not. You're not going to get 6 years out of this.
No, I would do, if you were going to do seasons, if you had to, keep them short, do 6 episodes. 6 to 10 episodes is perfect. Tell a compelling story, because I think there's one episode where I think Will gets involved in a shooting and it wasn't his fault.
Well,
and Uncle Phil has to bail him out.
There's a couple times where they did things where some of it was silly, but like he helped deliver a baby one time.
And you have to kind of think about it too, especially in this era of Black Lives Matter. We're addressing systemic racism. Black actors and black producers are getting more and more clout to do big projects. I mean, Lovecraft County or Country just premiered.
Yeah. You can do it with like drugs at school. You can do it with racial profiling at the rich school. You can do that. You can also do pool hustling. The pool hustling episode could be done as a straight episode as well.
Yeah, I mean,
where it reveals a bit of Uncle Phil's background.
Mm-hmm.
Casting will be key here.
Yes, because you want serious. You know who I'd love to get involved in this? It probably won't happen, but I'd love to see him involved. I love anything Michael B. Jordan's in, but I would cast unknowns if I could. But I want strong, powerful black leads that really emote, that really give me that sense of gravitas to this journey, because I think one of the two, obviously Uncle Phil's going to be important, Will paramount, but I think Carlton is going to be important, because you can't have him be the stupid Tom Jones like in Goofball. But
what you can have is you could have him being sneaky, conniving, and self-serving to the point where he backstabs his own family and friends and people to get what he wants for the perceived privilege that he wants. Yeah.
And the fact that he comes from a different class background than Will, I think that could be a really powerful dynamic. And even in the trailer, he's like, you never had to fight for a thing a day in your life.
So like he's not used to fighting systemic racism. He's actually used to perpetuating
he's part of the system.
A class-based like system.
Yeah, and it might be interesting even if they approach Uncle Phil. Will Uncle Phil stay on the bench as a judge with all the police brutality, the calls for the justice system to be reformed?
It depends on how old you want to play Uncle Phil. If you want this to be, if you make this a period piece, like if it's not, I hope they don't do it where they like make it today. But if it's supposed to be the 80s, like late 80s, you could still have Uncle Phil be somebody who was a hippie, part of the counterculture, part of the civil rights movement, and have him be somebody who became very disenfranchised because he gained the power he wanted to make changes, and it changed him instead.
What I might do if I did cast it if the series was going to be happening now, I'd have Uncle Phil as a retired LAPD officer after the LA riots.
Became a prosecutor sort of thing?
Exactly.
Or became a public defender?
Yes. That's how I would do it.
Well, became a public defender, and then in the last 15 years switched to being a prosecutor, and it's disillusioned him.
Yes, because he sees how stacked the system is, and he can either help out as many people as he can, or
like he gave up on helping people and became a prosecutor, and it's basically killed his soul. So he's this bitter guy.
Yeah, like there's so much storytelling potential here, and I think it could be great. So hopefully this is successful. I'm excited to see it when it does premiere eventually.
If like I'm hopeful, but it is a show I'll give one episode to. I usually give 2 or 3. If it doesn't hook me in the one episode, I feel like it would sully my vision of the original show, and I wouldn't want to watch it.
I typically give every show 5 episodes, though it may take me a while to get to those 5 episodes. But I want to see this succeed, because one of the dramas I enjoyed the most in the last couple of years was that O.J. Simpson story. That was really good.
Was that the
American Crime Story?
Yeah, from the same people that do the American Horror Story.
Yeah, like it was really good.
I heard that one was really good.
And
I just avoided it because I knew the story. Like, I grew up with enough of it around me that, like, watching it as a kid and all that, and I was fascinated by it, and I read like books and biographies on it. Like, I was that kid in high school when they're like, pick a book to read, and I'd be like reading about OJ, and they'd be like, why? I'm like, because it's interesting. So for me, I knew pretty much everything that happened, but I heard it was very well made.
Yeah, like ultimately it's one of my favorite pieces of media I've seen in the last couple of years. But that is going to do it for this edition of the Weird News. And we're going to start things or end things off on one of my reviews. We're going to take a trip to the Federation of Planets, and we're going to take a look at Star Trek Adventure's latest RPG supplement. This is Star Trek Iconic Villains.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle stations.
The troublesome little man-child. Are you prepared for the kind of death you've earned, little man?
I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many.
No, you can't get away. From hell's heart, I stab at thee.
A true victory is to make your enemies see they were wrong to oppose you in the first place. To force them to acknowledge your greatness. Then you kill them. Only if it's necessary.
Hey guys, it's Mike the Birdman here. We're taking a look at yet another RPG supplement coming to us from our good friends over at Modiphius. We are looking at Star Trek Adventures, Iconic Villains, non-player characters. So what this is sort of like a mini monster manual to introduce campaign-level threats or major bad guys into your Star Trek Adventures games, be it as a one-off, maybe a continuing threat in your games, or just something if you've always wanted to relive maybe your own version of the best of both worlds. Maybe you're present at the Battle of Wolf 359, maybe you want to be at Farpoint, or maybe you want to take Admiral Janeway's place fighting the Borg Queen as she returns to Earth. There are tons of possibilities in here, but in terms of the characters you're actually getting in here, you get the Gorn Captain, Khan, General Chang from Star Trek VI. You're getting Q himself, Locutus of Borg, which is a really fantastic addition to this. You're also getting Lore, who is Data's brother, Gul Dukat, and the Borg Queen. I think this is tremendously cool, just to have all these major characters in one place. However, though, while I was doing a little bit of comparison between these things, I did notice these characters do appear, certain characters appear in other books, such as the Borg Queen and Gul Dukat, most notably from the Gamma Quadrant and the Delta Quadrant source books. However, especially in Gul Dukat's case, his stats are just a little bit different. His talents are a little bit different, so you can play these characters a little bit more aggressively or to suit the particular playstyle. A lot of these characters include an ability where they add instant threat when they're introduced into a scene, usually 3. So if you really want to make your players' days suck, you can do that. But other than that, just having official statted stuff for some of these major characters, I think, is a big win for the support for the Star Trek line. One of the things that I was a huge fan of is the fact that you got the Finger of God himself, and that being the Almighty Q, played by John Delancey. I love it. Basically, he has one power that I'm absolutely in love with, and it's called Power of the Continuum. Members of the Q Continuum have access to limitless power that allows them to do anything at a whim. The Q have been known to summon creatures from thin air, transport themselves and others across the vastness of space and time, or effectively edit out parts of the universe that they wish to change. The Game Master should use this power as a storytelling device, generally used to present the PCs with a new dilemma to solve. While the Q are able to perform these impossible tasks, they seem to take great joy in watching lesser species solve them. So this is your Finger of God. If you don't want something to happen, or if you want to present them with a unique puzzle, it just happens. You snap your fingers like Q does, it happens. So you're not essentially the Lady of Pain from D&D, but you are Q. You can do whatever the hell you want. And I'm glad we got that. Another one that I'm really surprised that we got, because I just wouldn't have thought to stat him, honestly, is Locutus. So if you want the assimilated version of Captain Picard, now you have him. So if you want to live out the Battle of Wolf 359, alternate history. Hell, I just thought of a really neat idea where, man, what if the Mirror Universe took on the Borg? That could be cool. I wonder if that's ever happened. Just kind of curious. But you also get lore as well, which is neat. You get the Borg Queen, which if you want to do a more Borg-focused campaign, honestly, I recommend picking up the Delta Quadrant source book. It'll give you so much more insights. But if you just want a raw character sheet and go off the Borg stats that are presented in the core book, then you got this here too. Though pick up the Delta Quadrant source book. It's one of the best reads I've had this entire year. So overall, you are paying about $5 for this. So for the price of a couple of cups of coffee, or maybe, a bag of chips and some pop, you are getting official game stats for your characters. And I do recommend picking this up because it does support the devs. It does give you official stats. Plus you do get ideas to mess around with like other species, like the Gorn, for example. So the Gorn captain, you could easily scratch some of those serial numbers off and have yourself a Gorn shock trooper or Gorn marine. There's some neat ideas there if you're willing to change things up a little bit. Plus, if you put Khan into your campaign, you can do your best Khan impression, which I will not attempt to do here because I have a little bit of dignity, though it's not much. So anyway, can I recommend Star Trek Adventures Iconic Villains? Yeah, you know what? For $5, I'm willing to throw down some money and have these iconic villains grace my game and to torment my players, and I'm mostly just looking forward to snapping my fingers as Q.
If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous, with treasures to satiate desires both subtle and gross. But it's not for the timid.
All right, guys. Well, thank you once again for joining us here only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman, joined with Alex the producer. Coming up on the site this week, we are going to be having, I'm pretty sure, a Turd or Treasure. I still have a bunch of RPG books to look through from Modiphius, from the world of Conan. I also should be looking at some other stuff as well. I actually just got a copy of the Alien RPG's latest supplement, Destroyer of Worlds, which is pretty kick-ass. We'll be talking about that at some point rather soon. What else do we got going? I have a PS Vita game to review. Who the hell saw that coming in 2020? What else? I also have a Scooby-Doo board game I got sent a while back. It's just been a hassle trying to get people together, so I'll send that off.
I mean, it is a pandemic.
Yeah, it is a pandemic and social distancing. It's a thing. We're also going to be taking a look at a Dungeons and Dragons book a little bit later on. Probably not this week, probably next week. That involves more of the Magic the Gathering setting built into D&D 5th edition. And I have some other RPG books over the next little bit. Either way, there's lots of content coming from me. You're going to have to read a lot of it, though, but it's worth it, I promise you. Other than that, I am doing a show with Nerds of the Third Power. Last week, we recorded Comfort Media, things that we go back to that are comfortable for us, like television shows, video games, movies, etc. This week on the show, which I record on Tuesday with Billy and I think Skyblaze, I think we're talking about Mario's 35th anniversary, which I've been with the franchise since the 1980s. So I've got some memories.
You're old.
Older than fucking dirt. So we will be talking
which by the way, we are a couple weeks behind on some of the syndicated programs, so expect them out all this week.
Yeah, we have recorded a Loose Cannon with Aaron. We are hoping to record a comic book show sometime this week, probably late. If not, it'll be the week after. We are going to be talking about our favorite super teams. And then that show will change up a little bit. It may just be me and JT with Alex popping in whenever he wants to, just to give Alex a break.
Well, because I'll be probably taking some time off in September for sure anyway.
So yeah, it'll be me and JT talking about pretty much whatever, because I'm looking forward to it. I plan on starting Anime August this week. I'm going to pick Cowboy Bebop and power through it. And then I really want to see if I can get through Outlaw Star, which I'm pretty sure is on one of these services. I think it's on
it'll be on. It's either on there or that makes me think of Tubi TV for some reason.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's on Funimation.
Okay.
If not, I'll finish something stupid, or maybe I'll start My Hero Academia or something.
I tried watching that Burn Up W show you were talking about. Oh, I didn't like that one at all.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Just the theme song in the trailer hooked me from way back.
Oh, the theme song, the show was like, oof, so low budget.
peak fucking 90s.
Peak fucking 90s, nudity for no reason at all.
Yeah, 90s,
and just like people transform into super police officers without any rhyme or reason.
Well, I mean, as one does, is the custom.
Dude, the first episode is a bunch of terrorists take over a building, and their demands are their favorite singer to bungee cord naked upside down in front of the building, a baseball manager to apologize for losing, what was another one? For a video game to put the word final in the title of the next game to end the series. It was like supposed to be a Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy ripoff. And the last one was for every surfboard to be destroyed. And I'm like, what?
Well then.
Yes. I mean, it's peak 90s, but entertaining. But I was like, oh, there's so much better out there. Cowboy Bebop amongst them.
Yes. So we will hopefully be talking anime at some point rather soon because, hey, we might as well use this newfound knowledge somehow. So anything coming up from you, Alex?
I have a few games that I'm reviewing that'll be out in the next couple of weeks. One is Giraffe and Annika, which is from NS America. That will be, I think, this Friday or Saturday, whenever I've got a Turd or Treasure coming out. Kendagawa Jet Girls on PS4 from Xseed, which is another one of the anime type like fan service games where you're on a jet ski. Then later on in a few weeks, I'll have RPG Maker MV for the Switch. So I'll be making some ridiculous RPG games for fun and testing out some of the base scenarios they've created. There's also a review of the Mill Creek. I think it's the first time they've released the series, which is Eureka, the TV show on Sci-Fi. One of the last of the golden era of the Sci-Fi before they switched over to Sci-Fi. They released a Blu-ray set of all of their stuff. We've got a few more from Vinegar Syndrome that we can go through, and then whatever else comes in the mail the next week or so. But I've mostly caught up on the larger titles of games because if you notice, there isn't a whole lot of big things. I think like Tony Hawk comes out in 2 or 3 weeks, and that's about it.
Which I actually just got the demo for that. So big thanks to my friends over at Activision. I'll be checking that out probably later today.
And then I think there's some smaller titles, but I don't think there's anything big until like October.
So Avengers, but I think you mentioned that.
No, I'm saying there's not really anything big and important until.
Yeah,
I'll if I get a copy to review it, I'll be impartial, but I was not impressed by the demo.
There is a rumored Mass Effect remaster that could get dropped at Gamescom.
Yeah, that's true. That could just drop. But I think the next larger in quotes titles are Tony Hawk,
Star Wars in October,
as well as Crash Bandicoot, and then we're all basically waiting for whatever launch titles and
Call of Duty,
Cyberpunk.
Yeah. So,
and actually, isn't it? Was it this Friday or is it this Friday or this coming Friday? They're announcing the, or was it which Call of Duty? Did they actually announce it yet?
Kind of. You have to crack a code, and because Call of Duty Black Ops is known for their secretive natures, you have to go back and play Black Ops 4 and work through codes which are supplied to bunkers in Warzone.
Didn't they say the official, like, the information will, like, if you can crack it, you can get in, they'll explain it, but if you don't crack it by next Friday, they're showing it off or something?
I don't know. I know the first couple codes have been revealed and they link to different websites and they show different events, but I haven't followed the reveal to this too close, but it does look pretty cool. They sent some influencers an old school slide projector in like a wooden box.
Oh, is that what they were sending out to people?
Like it's really cool.
So I mean, it's got a great marketing budget. At the same time, I question why, because it's like Madden. Every year there's a new title.
Yeah, but they are different enough. And
no, you know what I mean. Like this screams huge marketing budget, and part of me is like, couldn't you put that into the game?
Well, you'll have to wait and see, because this is something where
and I say that as they just announced a 66 gig download update.
Yeah, for Warzone.
Where apparently that's and it doesn't make the game 66 gigs bigger. It's to replace a lot of data. And
on the PC version, it's smaller on consoles.
And on Xbox One, it's 66 gigs.
Oh, I thought it was smaller than that, because I downloaded it the other day.
They had to apologize for it. Well, you got unlimited internet with Gigabit. People are pissed. It's bigger than most games. It's twice the size of most regular games, and it's just an update. So people on data caps where they have like 100 gig cap are mad.
Ouch. So
yes. So hopefully that all gets corrected in this new version or whatever comes out in the next generation of consoles.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of a 66 gig update that wasn't a full expansion.
Yeah, so yikes. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here on this edition of Twig. As always, thank you for sticking with us. We do appreciate it. Lots of stuff coming up on the site. As always, we are always around on Twitter at ThisWeekInGeek, where Alex typically takes care of the main account. If you know where to find me on social media, I'm not hard to find. So anyway, until next time for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at ThisWeekInGeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at ThisWeekInGeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.